that's where I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do this, like, we don't want to open. Obviously, God damn it! Are we serious right now? I got it. I'm on it. Shut that shit off. That's the old intro, actually. So, some people would be like, "Oh, I love that song." Anyways, so yeah, I want to do a show in like somewhere between January and March, and I was like, but if we do this, we obviously don't want to open. But we're not ready to headline. Nobody's really ready. I was like, fuck, we need a real headliner. But my biggest thing, dude, and tell me what you think about this, man. So I think, well, let me ask you a question. Do you currently, or in the last couple of years, have you gone to a lot of local shows, like post-pandemic?
No.
Okay. It's not a gotcha moment. Here's what I think is happening, and I think this started to happen a long time ago, bro, but I think it's way worse now, where I think bands are way too comfortable filling clubs halfway up. So they'll play at the Pickle Park or Main Event or whatever it's called now, Route 47, which holds what? Murph, look this up for me. What is the legal, like, the fire marshal's capacity for Route 47? It's not going to be easy to find, but it should be listed on their website for legal reasons. But anyways, let's say it's 800 people. Let's say it's 600 people. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. Like, most people are putting 200 people in that building. Now, my theory is take that same 200 people and put them in a room that only holds 180.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like borderline obvious what I'm explaining. I don't want to patronize you and insult you. And I talk about this a lot on the podcast, so I think most of the listeners and viewers know where I'm going with this too. So that's kind of what I want to do is I want to take a band like yours. I want to take, depending on the size of the venue, it might only be 2 other bands, including mine. So maybe you guys, us, and then an opener. Or you guys, somebody like Josie's band, Bullets and Butterflies, who's a little more established than we are, but they're still pretty new. Have them play second or third, and then have us play the other position, second or third, and then get like a legit opener.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's really fucking good. We might even open shit. But that's kind of my vibe, is like, I'd rather open for a great bill than be one of those weird, greedy bands that's like, nope, we're playing second or third, and then like, fine, but it's half empty, dude. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'm trying to put something together. So that's why I was like, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure.
Are you playing shows right now? Where are you musically? So for people that don't know, let's catch them up. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people like who you are and what you do and all that shit.
My name's Aaron, and right now I am worship pastor at local church. Eagle Brook, we got a few campuses around. I played in some bands throughout my life for the last 20 years. Got 4 boys, married 12 years. I just love music.
So how did you, because ironically, how is he on levels? Because he's super quiet in my headphones. It might be my headphones too, though. I turned my own headphones up. That actually is already a lot better. So okay, let me start over. I was going to church one day, and I'm sitting in the audience, and all of a sudden they're playing, what the fuck is it called? Pretender by Foo Fighters. And I was like, this song's dope. I was like, I love this song. I practice drums to this song. This is in my warm-up routine. And my wife's like, yeah, cool, I know, I hear it. It's just as annoying then as it is now, right? Because my wife's just not a fan of the same music I am, right? And but then I'm like kind of playing air drums to it. She's like, knock it off. You're embarrassing me. People are looking at you. And I was like, no one's looking at me. They're looking at Jesus. And so long story short, the next week we're sitting there, and all of a sudden you walk out on stage. And you start singing. And me being me, I'm like, holy shit, that's Aaron Dahl from Emergent. And I said it at that volume. But you were already playing and the music was already going because you walked out after the music had started. And so when I went, holy shit, that's Aaron from Emergent, no one heard me except for the three people directly in front of me, right? No one else. And no one was offended. I didn't upset anybody or anything, but it blew my mind that you were at that church of all churches. Because I had heard, and we'll get into this, but I had heard that you had left Emergent or quit or the band broke up, and we'll get into what actually happened later, but I had heard something had happened because you had either found God or rededicated yourself or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't surprised that you were at a church singing. That made perfect sense. I was surprised you were at that church.
Right.
Ironically, the same one that I go to, which is nowhere near my house, because we were already living here. But we went all the way up there to go to church because that one's by my parents' house.
Blaine?
And my parent, yep.
Right.
Or Mounds View or whatever it is. Or Arden Hills, whatever. I don't know what it legally is. Doesn't matter. But yeah, so that was like super small world moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. And I don't think I was doing the podcast. But when I did start doing the podcast, you were on that short list of dudes, and I hit you up right away. Like, dude, you got to come on the podcast. And you just politely, almost too politely, you're like, I'm good for now. I'm good for now. But, man, I got to say thank you for coming down and doing this because I really wanted to get you on the podcast for a long time, dude. And so I appreciate you being here, man. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. I'll give you a cheers here.
Yeah.
So, how did you end up? Because my wife actually was curious about this because she goes, I've heard that's a really hard deal to get into. How did you get into even playing music for the church, let alone becoming music director? And then we're going to kind of work our way. We're going to kind of end up Tarantinoing this thing and kind of going back and forth to kind of bridge the gap from where you came from to where you are now. And we're going to kind of ping pong this thing.
Well, it's funny you say the music director because that's
or even just
totally
playing the band.
Totally not my role, but that's the second time this week that
Would you say the worship?
So worship pastor, but I oversee one of the campuses, so some of the direction I can handle, like song choices.
But isn't that because I got my buddy Dan Lugo does it at a church, and isn't that basically what it is? If you're a worship pastor, isn't that basically like you're the music? You're kind of in control of that section of things. So wouldn't that be another word for music director, but in church speak? Or am I being weird?
In a way, we kind of got to the point at our church where it's gotten to be a little bit bigger. So there's someone that oversees all the campuses' music. So we have 13 campuses now. So then he kind of oversees all the music department. And so I just kind of handle this logistics at one campus.
Got it. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, but my wife and I started attending in 2010, and it was like just a moment like probably you had where you go in and the music was awesome.
Yeah, they're surprisingly good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like which is some people would not be surprised. They'd be like, "This is not surprising at all. Band at my church is great." Yeah, that's fine. But at a lot of churches, they're horrible. Like they're hard to listen to. The music gear is bad, so it's like physically difficult to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle Brook does like a real production. They have like real lights, a good sound system, a huge stage.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're like a good band. And every once in a while, they'll even play secular music if it fits the message of the day.
Yeah, it used to happen a lot more pre-COVID. It was just part of the weekend. We'd just do an opener set like Foo Fighters, Pretender.
Yeah.
And I remember that weekend specifically because that was a song that I loved. And to hear one of the guys do it, who I thought was one of the better vocalists.
Yeah. And he played guitar while he did it, too.
Yeah.
Like, he did his best Dave Grohl, which is a weird...
Bearded guy?
I think so. I don't think it was, like, super big beard, but it was, yeah, like, I think so. Thicker dude, too.
Yeah.
Like, not skinny and lanky like me. Like,
I know who.
I don't remember if he was jacked thick or if he was, like, chubby thick. I don't remember. But I remember him being, like, a bigger, huskier guy.
I was there.
That's hilarious, dude. So super small world. So how'd you get into doing that? You just showed up one day and started attending, joined the church, and then how's it go from there?
Yeah, so we started attending in 2010, and then I think within the year we were volunteering in the kids spaces. So my wife and I would help people get checked in with their kids, and we just help out with, volunteering with them in the preschool preschool age group. And then we just bounced around and eventually ended up in production. My wife went to school for music business, so she's all into it too.
Okay.
So I was running camera on the drums, and at the time Shane Speltz was playing drums, and we grew up playing shows together and just kind of put it together.
Really?
So Shane
what
was
bands
in.
has he been in? Would we know any of them?
Yeah, Cat Perkins. I forget what the name of their
yeah.
band was.
Yeah, I don't know Kat personally, but I have met her. She probably wouldn't remember me, but
What is the name of their band? It'll come back to me. Shane's.
Okay.
But they were in a band for a long time, and so I knew Shane. He had the cymbals like way up top, and I just remember that about him. And
I
so
know
then we
exactly
started
what
just
guy you're talking about.
yeah.
Dark
So we just
hair.
started connecting.
He used to have like the almost like 50s style. Way back in the day, he had like 50s style sideburns.
Okay.
So they like kind of cut in and like, you know what I'm talking? I don't know what you call those style sideburns.
Choppers or chops, mud chops,
something like that. Yeah. There's a specific name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Anyways.
at the time, so I was just running camera for a while, and then the guy that was doing student ministry Wednesday nights was going on to do the weekend stuff, and they were looking for someone to lead students. And the guitar player at the time was like, yeah, we're just looking for someone to audition for. Dude, you should audition. Because they knew that I was a musician, and I was like, all right, sure. Just did.
You do guitar?
Did a song. No, at
guitar?
the time I just was, I was just vocals for the majority of the time. And it just kind of felt good. Did a Shut Up and Dance was my audition song for church.
Really?
But yeah, so the guy that interviewed me, who's now the music director, we just kind of hit it off and felt like a good fit. And I didn't feel like I could balance both of them, Emergent and the church stuff at the same time. It kind of felt like, in my mind at the time, it was a turning of the page of a new chapter. Just move on and get into a different scene. At the time, like I think I'd been sober for like maybe 10 years or so and had kids, was married, and all the band was kind of in different seasons of their life. So it was just a different balancing act, you know.
Gotcha. Okay. So it wasn't this big, like, dramatic call. It wasn't you're in the middle of a tour and you're waking up in some stripper's bed and you're going, oh, I need to reevaluate my life. And so it wasn't some dramatic, abrupt.
No.
Okay.
I mean, as dramatic as it gets is I'm sitting in a back of a van, freezing cold. There's mice poop all over. And I just remember thinking, like, I miss my son. Like, I miss my wife. It's not, we just play the show in Chippewa Falls for 15 people for $100. And here I am, like, it's not like the glamorous stuff like we always make it out to be. And that was kind of my moment where it's just like, I just want to be home. I don't need this anymore, to chase it.
I think something super similar happened to Nick Wellner when he left after the burial back in the day. And I think that's why a lot of people leave, is it's those non-dramatic moments where it's just like, I think if you're doing like human math, guys go, I'm putting in more than I'm getting out. But this happens locally too, dude. We've had these conversations on the podcast where I think bands, great drummers, great bassists and vocal people quit local bands because maybe they have a kid on the way or they get offered a promotion, or maybe something happens and they're a little hard up on cash, and suddenly they realize the band costs them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bring, and I'm not going to derail this too much, but I bring up this philosophy of like, that's why we all got to get paid, dude. Like, bands got to get paid. Stop with this. I'm just in it for the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because your band members may not be.
Mm-hmm.
And like, your band could literally break up because your drummer can't afford to be in it anymore. And he's so fucking good that he's not a replaceable member.
Right.
And your music career can come to an end because you weren't willing to ask for $1,500. You were settling for $200, and your band's probably worth $3,000. So not everybody deserves to get paid a lot,
right?
But everybody should get paid something, especially if the bar is charging a cover. And so that's just another example of that. Because if you would have gotten paid $10,000 that night, and your cut of that is $1,500. And you can go home and throw down and contribute to the mortgage and help pay your kids' baseball tuition. I don't know how old your kids were at the time, but
yeah,
you're nodding and saying yeah, because I think like most things on this podcast, almost none of my ideas are original. These are things I've been explained and taught by people far more experienced and far more successful than me.
Mm-hmm.
And it really bothers me locally here that the musicians at our level and lower, which I would consider you a tier above me as far as success and talent, including your band. Like, I did some cool shit, but like what I saw you guys do was just a little bit more than what I ever accomplished, but we're still kind of in the same stratosphere, the same bubble, right? And I just think bands at our level and lower, it's almost like they don't have enough self-worth or self-respect to put their foot down and go, no, we need to get paid, dude.
Right.
And bands go into debt, whatever. So it is kind of a relief to know that it was as simple as that, But at the same time, obviously you were getting some sort of emotional enrichment and spiritual fulfillment out of helping out at the church. That was also like, hey, I can get something from this where I don't need to be on the road too. And talk about that a little bit. So whether you're sober or not, whether you're in a good place or not, talk about the pull and the almost addiction of playing on stage in front of people, sharing your music, and that kind of that absolute dopamine hit that you get from that. Because that was obviously something that you weren't getting enough of either. Because even if your band's broke, but you're getting enough of that, you'd have stuck with it too. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it honestly took probably 15 or 20 years of playing music to finally realize the swings emotionally of like being on a stage and just the energy to like being home the next day or even that night, and to try to sit in just the mundane things of life gets harder and harder.
What do you mean? So you're playing a sold out crowd one night and then you wake up the next day and...
Yeah, I just think that there's aspects to playing a show, especially about like being a front man, that there's so much dopamine going on and so much release, and the things that are going on in my head are just, it's like a Christmas tree, and then to go and do basically nothing is it's like a roller coaster of emotions, where I'd say it's not the average thing for a person. So it took a long time to balance that out, and maybe I just didn't realize that I needed that. It was more of a therapy thing. And just the other day I went to a show at 7th Street and it was sold out, 200 people, like you said, and that room feels great.
Yeah.
And I don't care how famous I would have ever got. Like, if I'm at a show, I want to have fun, and I'm going to be in the pit, and I'm going to be singing, and I'm going to be that kid again, because that to me is like my release. That's my workout. That's my connection. It's like music. I'm not going to be the too cool for school guy that sits in the back and analyzes things and says they should have done it this way, or I wish they didn't do that.
I do that sometimes. I have become that guy more often than not now.
See. And I mean that's
and I
cool
hate myself for it. Just so you guys know, I'm not bragging about it. Like, I know who I am. I know what I've become.
But I just love to have fun in there, and just.
So do you like still mosh and shit? Do you get in there and jam out and shit?
It's been a while though, like since I've been in a real pit, like a Head Charge First Ave pit is like a real pit,
Sure.
And I'll never forget, man. I was at a Stained concert, which you wouldn't think a Stained concert would have that big of a pit, but I'm there with my dad, probably the first concert he ever attended. He's got this leather jacket on, and
this is a while ago.
Oh yeah, this is a while ago, and he'd had a few that day, and he's got this leather jacket on. He'd never seen a mosh pit before, and he just sees me like tornadoing in there, and he like comes in there, and he's like freaking out, all frantic, and he like grabs these guys, and he's like throwing them off because he didn't know. He thought they're like trying to hurt me or something, and
That's
just from someone from an outside. And I asked my oldest the other day, I'm like, do you know what a mosh pit is? He's like, it's like when a bunch of people get together and fight, right? I'm like, sort of.
But
I mean,
not on purpose. Not with any like malice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more like I accidentally punched you on purpose.
Yeah. But I mean, my first arena show.
That's why I don't like hardcore shows, actually, because those guys are in there to hurt people.
Yeah, that's a different.
You know what I'm talking about.
That's a different ballgame. I went to an Under Oath show, and I had to ask some people, what's the difference here with? Because I didn't experience that. I was like hardcore and metal, and
dude, how old are you?
I'll be 40 next month.
Okay, so we're basically the same age. My first mosh pit, maybe I was going to the weird concerts, or maybe I started going to concerts earlier than you. I don't remember. But when I first started going to concerts, nobody was swinging punches or doing anything. They were pretty much just running in a circle and bouncing their bodies off of each other.
Yeah.
Like, it was very innocent, and it was just very about, like, standing here headbanging isn't enough.
Yeah.
And it just turned into, like, a whirlpool almost, where people were just, like, literally kind of running around in circles. And like I said, some people were bouncing into each other. And then what you would do is you would, like, run and you would, like, jump and bounce into the crowd. But the crowd was always surrounded by, or the pit was always surrounded by guys that would just kind of, like, push you back into the pit so people didn't get hurt or blindsided. But then something changed in... It obviously started in hardcore music, but, like, violent pits became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they banned moshing?
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere?
That was
like,
funny. Yeah, it would say on the tickets, no moshing with, like, some asterisks.
They'd have signs, like, at the Rock nightclub. They
had
no moshing signs.
Yeah, that's funny.
Do you remember that?
That didn't last very long. I mean, try to control that. But.
All it took was bands like mine that were just big enough to matter to clubs like the Rock. So there's not my band, but like maybe a bigger band that mattered to X Fest, right? Or like my band mattered to the Rock nightclub, or somebody else's band mattered to 7th Street Entry. And all it took was club by club, the right band being like, no, fuck that. If you want us to play, you have to let our fans mosh. They were like, okay. And then once that sign came down, man, once it didn't show up on one ticket and they seen how much money they made, they were like, oh, we're letting these kids mosh. Because kids get tired, kids get thirsty.
Right.
Like, it just made them more money, you know? The crowd was more energetic. It brought more people back the next weekend to the next show, and they quickly realized, like, that actually brings up something. Isn't it interesting how much of a business it is, though? Because, like, that's really... We might say, let them mosh because it's kids trying to have fun. It makes a show better for us, right?
Yeah.
But the only way it happens is if the venues make more money. And the reason they stopped doing it is because somebody got sued.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just sad how it's literally all about money.
Yeah.
Not to bring it too much into the business side of things, but it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Get paid. Get paid. Get insurance if you're a band.
Insurance.
Like, you don't want to get sued for some kid getting injured moshing at your show.
Well, like the Travis Scott scenario. Like, geez, man.
What happened with that? So he had a big blowout show, and a bunch of people got injured because there was like a riot, or
I think it was just people
happened, right?
People getting pushed against the barricade.
Is that what
I think is what, and then nobody knew that they were getting squished, and they just lost oxygen.
And people died, right?
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 people.
I think
died.
there was
Murph, look that up.
A handful.
Let's not talk out of pocket here, because honestly, I don't want to get sued for. What is it? Travis Scott fans injured. Search that and see if you find anything.
But yeah, I mean, when you're first starting a band, the money is not really at the forefront of your mind. I think for us, at least, I got used to making $100 as a band a night, and you just kind of ride that for a while. You don't really get a raise unless you're given it, is what I kind of thought.
Right.
And I'm like, well, am I going to take $100 to play the show with a national band, or am I going to let the next guy in line take it for $100 or $50? You know, so it's like you kind of have to take those opportunities. And
well, and that is a thing. Like, you will say, yeah, we'll play for free because it's in front of a huge crowd, right? And so the idea there is, well, we have a chance to sell more T-shirts, sell more CDs, get people to our next show, right?
Yeah.
But from the other side of things, what a lot of people do from a booker side or from a promoter side is they overpay a national band that can't properly draw,
right? And
then they book 2 or 3 local bands to help fill out the venue.
Yeah.
And then really it's the local bands that are filling the room, and they don't get paid shit.
Remember when Static X played the Rock?
I remember when a lot of those bands played the Rock.
Oh, like that probably was one of the biggest national bands that they had in there. They had to probably pony up some money for that.
I always wonder about that, because I got into it for a short period of time buying shows and shit, and yeah, you'd be surprised how cheap some of these bands are. And then you'd be surprised how much some of them charge. And you're like, dude, you guys are not worth $30,000. Like, there's no fucking way. Like, no, I just want to know what happened.
I know.
I don't want to watch these. Do you want to watch this?
60 injured.
60 injured. Go ahead and play it.
How long is it? 5 minutes?
No, this is short.
Welcome back to Uncensored. This is...
Yeah, we're going to get flagged for that, dude. That's somebody's newscast, dude. We can't play that. People got hurt. I just remember it was crazy.
Yeah, it was a big deal for a while.
And I think, like, he was told people were getting hurt and then kept playing. I think that's why he got in a lot of trouble for that, if I remember right. Yeah, Murph, see if you can find a news story like that that we can just read, like an article.
See, that's the
Take
thing
your time,
nowadays. It's just hard to keep up with all the stuff. Like,
yeah, it's so weird, dude.
but
It's so fucking weird. So anyways, so you're working for this church. You go from doing the youth stuff, and then it just naturally gravitates into you running that Blaine campus now?
no,
On the
it
music
kind
side
of is a
things?
long story. I've been there 10 years now, so for 8 of those years, I was doing student ministries, which is middle school and then high school.
And then
so
you would just pop up on a Sunday every once in a while?
Yep.
Okay.
The
So that's
first,
why I didn't
the
see
first
every
year or
Sunday.
two, I would only do a couple Sundays,
Gotcha.
a schedule maybe. Yeah, because
All right, we'll get to that in a minute, Murph.
the students was where I feel like really initially pulled me in because it was high energy. You know, we're jumping around and all the students, and it's that same kind of thing as a rock show. I could use that.
Sure.
And the kids that are coming in, and even still to this day, like they just want to have fun and fit in, and it's about making their walls come down, you know, so they don't feel like, oh, this is church, you know, like you can have fun and
Right.
get sweaty and hang out with friends, and then you hear a message that's applicable to where they're at, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, I did that for a long time, and then I just came on staff 2 years ago, and then went through the whole pastoral stuff. And
Oh, so now it's like a job.
So now
you
it's-
actually get paid.
no, it's well, I was paid before, but it was a contractor. So there's a handful of music contractors.
Like literally, are you 1099 at that point?
No, I was still W-2'd,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know how that works out. But
I just hear contractor and I'm like, gotta pay your own taxes. Double Medica, double FICA. I grew up in that world for a
Yeah.
long time, dude.
yeah,
That's a rough deal. So, I'm kind of trying to put this whole thing together because and I'm sure you know how this is. Like when you're in the music scene, especially in this town, it's so incestual, and there's so many stories that are told behind the scenes.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, what time is it? We're 15 minutes into this podcast, 20 minutes into this podcast. And the truth of what happened is so far from the 30 versions that I've heard about how you simply just left Emergent. Like when I hear your version of it, I feel like you didn't even really leave. You were just like, hey guys, I'm going to focus on this other thing right now. If you guys can find somebody to replace me, go for it. I'm not going to be butthurt about it. That's what it
Sure.
sounds like to me. But that is, dude, like I said, that is the farthest thing from any version of the story that I ever heard. So I'm just kind of trying to piece this together now, like, holy shit, because that really changes like what I thought was going on.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And there is a little more to the story than what I've said. I mean, the whole mental process leading up to it is the hardest thing at that point probably that I've ever done, is like to leave a band that I felt like I worked so hard to get the things that the opportunities we've been given.
You were one of the founding members in that, right?
To a point. I mean, Kyle and Matt were kind of the driving force. And I
But
think
there wasn't a singer before you.
no.
So you were technically
yeah.
one of the founding members. You were one of the original
Right.
guys.
And it was like a side project at the time. I was still in Severa and Kyle was playing with us, and
Kyle
Glidden.
Oh, you know Glidden, huh?
oh yeah,
That's the homie.
and Matt was playing drums, and yeah, so it was just a side project. But then we did Erode, and
Keep going.
it was like you could tell something special was there with the music. Like, we obviously knew that the music was better than the projects we were in, but it just took some time to separate from.
Hey,
our-
Murph, are you 100% certain that you connected to that YouTube? Are you 100% certain that you connected to the YouTube? You are? Like on your phone? No shit. Weird. It's not popping up on mine. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Got it. We're good. Okay, cool. You said Glidden, and I was like, oh, fuck. If you know Glidden's going to be in here talking shit. And I was like, I got to get in front of this. And then I couldn't find it. Okay, so you were in Sevra. You're a founding member of... I'm doing a horrible job hosting tonight, by the way. Sorry. Okay, so you were in Sevra. God, why do I know that name, but I can't place the music?
I mean, we weren't very big. We were around for a few years, but we weren't very big.
Did you not play a lot of shows?
We played a fair amount of local shows.
Okay.
But
I wonder if we ever played together, dude.
what was the name of your projects?
I was in a bunch of them, dude. 7 Months of Nothing, Solace and Ashes, Dying Euphoria, The Tyrants.
We played with Dying Euphoria.
I wonder if
Yeah.
I was in that band when that happened. Because I feel like you're so good. You're so talented. I would have remembered it.
It was kind of a different gimmick that was. I don't feel like Emergent was like the first pro band I feel like I was in where we had our stuff together. You know,
so
we
was
were,
it the whole band or is it the first band where you had your shit together?
well, probably both, because yes, I was still drinking at the times of early bands, and that was just not a good mixture. But you know, we were managed by. At one point, we had a manager, and we were practicing 6 days a week, and we didn't even use a click, but we were so tight. You know, we just knew everything. We'd rehearse the set every night for 6 days a week for months. You know, and we just didn't. And that kind of progress you don't see, you know, as a being in it. But then we'd go and play a show, and people just couldn't believe like how tight we were. And so that was just what we were kind of known for.
Sevra.
Yeah. And I just do, you know, weird stuff. I always use the stage as just an excuse to be crazy and do whatever I wanted and get away with it, kind of thing.
Weren't you doing some weird shit with a ladder at like Roberts
Yeah.
in Moundsview? I think I was at that show.
I'd grab the biggest ladder. Yeah, and Roberts didn't have the most secure stage. It was a bit soggy in the middle. So, you know, you set that ladder. I'm lucky to be alive, honestly, after some of the stuff that happened. Just, you know, you hear people falling off ladders and they don't wake up.
Yeah, I wonder, because I've taken a lot of falls, and I've fallen off ladders, and I've fallen out of trees, and I've taken a lot of spills, and I just wonder, man, when you hear about those injuries that you're referring to, I just wonder, man, like, did they know how to fall? Because like that's kind of a skill, like knowing how to fall. Like knowing how to break your fall and like do a roll and not seriously injure yourself, that's kind of a skill.
Right. It kind of has to come naturally. I mean, like when you see the cat, how they just turn in midair and they got the slow-mo of their feet.
That's a great point. Yeah, that is a great point.
Because you got like what, a second, maybe a half second to do all the stuff before you hit the ground. But
yeah, I don't know. I just feel like every time I fall, if I know I'm not going to be able to break it and roll,
yeah,
I'm like, cover the head, dude. You know, so you literally, as you're falling, you curl up, you know, you shield yourself, you brace. Man.
Yeah.
Some people don't know how to fucking fall, dude.
Well, I mean, you play sports growing up, and you know, I played hockey, and you just learn how to take a hit. And that's kind of why I like moshing, because I knew how to absorb things, and I was 140 pounds, you know. And
what did you play when you played hockey? What position did you play?
Mostly center.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's
I was
like
winger.
That's like the most important position, dude. I think it's
I
the
was
most
fast.
boring.
Really?
Yeah, just because it's like the most responsible, you know, other than goalie. Like you really have to like stay in the middle of the ice. Like,
Well,
whereas the wingers get to.
Center would kind of control like the whole ice, or at least they had responsibility to go, or
Sure.
the permission to go into the left side. Where if like you're left wing, you got to be on that left side for the majority of it. And I just didn't like that restriction of only being over there. But
Okay, so it is like football then, because when I played so I didn't play real hockey, but I played with the team. I couldn't afford to to play real hockey, but I played with the team because we were young enough and I could skate, and I was pretty good. And I eventually became goalie when their goalie couldn't show up, and I got really good, and he really wanted me to fucking join the hockey team, dude. Like, really, really wanted me to join, but my mom couldn't afford it. Long story short, though, he allowed his wings to flip sides. So it didn't matter if you were left wing or right wing. It was if the left winger goes to the right side, the right winger better fill his gap on the other side. They were like interchangeable wide receivers.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was such a difference, because for me, where I grew up, it was like the center stays in the middle.
Yeah.
Like your job, like, it was like a tiny rectangle within the ice. It was like,
yeah.
and it was more about timing when you go in and out of the zone.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a hockey expert, so I don't know what the fuck
Sure.
I'm talking
I mean,
about.
different coaches have different philosophies, but for the most part, you're right. Like, you're gonna stay. That's why they call it a center. You're gonna be in the center.
God, I didn't know it was that like fluid though. I thought that's just how it works.
Yeah. I mean,
you
you
know?
live in Minnesota. You got to know a little bit about hockey, right?
I know how to play it. I don't know shit about the rules. I'm a fraud, dude.
Goalie
I'm a
is
fraud.
probably the most expensive too. Those. I mean, I went into a hockey store. I hadn't been in one in 15 years, and they got $1,000 skates now. I mean, the top of the line skates are $1,000.
Yeah, it's
literally.
insane.
I'm like, when did this happen?
Yeah, a
So
pair of like,
goalie pads are $2,500.
Yeah.
Jeez.
those
now
same
every-
numbers were like a really nice set of skates when I was a kid was like $200.
Right. Man, I had a pair of Rydell's with gold blades, and I was the only kid that I ever seen that had gold blades. They weren't real gold, but they were plated, to look like gold. And I would remember
Right.
skating around the Pettit Center oval.
Imagine if they're real gold,
And
soft
this-
ass
oh,
metal
yeah.
running
You
around.
you got two sharpens, and then time to. Yeah, but every time I'd go skate, like free skating, I'd get a couple comments like, "Dude, that kid had gold blades. Did you see that?" No.
And you were fast too, so they looked cool as hell.
Yeah.
Flickering in the lights, dude, as you're flying by somebody. You were 140 pounds. That sounds super small, but like, how old are we talking about?
I mean, I started going to concerts as soon as I turned 16. So I think I was like between 140 and 150, but then in my hockey program I said 155. It's
Sure.
the only time that you add weight to your to your. But yeah, I mean, I still don't. I can't really gain weight. I just been blessed with a good metabolism. I don't eat a whole lot of food either.
Yeah, you got to really start working out if you want to gain weight. Like, you got to really put in work.
Mhm.
I went through that for a long time, and then basically what I did was called a dirty bulk. So it was by any means necessary is kind of the recipe for it. So all the junk food, yes to the extra side of taters, yes to the extra side of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like, literally double meat portions, double protein. Don't worry about fat, all the candy, everything. Just shove it down your, like, you end up like eating becomes exhausting and tiring because you're just constantly eating all day to get enough calories in. Because, yeah, you're probably like me. You just burn it as fast as you can do it. And the moment I stop working out, the moment I stop doing push-ups, the moment I stop doing curls, anything, because I don't really work out like the real men.
Yeah.
But even the moment I stop doing what I do, dude, I lose all that muscle mass. Like, as fast as I put it on, it's gone. It's really, really difficult. So I feel your pain on that. And the only difference is if you do the dirty bulk, you can really mess your metabolism up, and then you start gaining fat, and you still have a problem putting that muscle on.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to give you advice on how to do it. But
Right.
if you change your mind and you do want to go hard in the paint,
Nah.
I got a guy for you. His
Yeah.
name's Eric. You probably know him. He's dope.
My brother's a personal trainer too.
Oh,
So
is he?
if I ever want to pick his brain, but I don't even work out with him. I don't really work out.
It's
Physically.
it's a weird vibe, dude. Like, I
Yeah.
need to do it now, and you should start doing it.
Yeah, I do stretches and I do aerobic stuff. But
There's
And
real
I-
health benefits to lifting weights, though.
yeah, for sure.
They call it resistance training.
Yeah.
And even if you're not trying to get jacked, like, just doing it and getting our old-ass fucking body. We're
Right.
old men now, dude. You're
Like,
the same age as I am.
You know how your back just starts to cave in, and you
Yeah.
just that's why I think stretching is one of the most underrated things.
So how much do you stretch, like, per day?
Oh,
Do you
I
have,
don't
like, a
do it
good
per
routine?
day, but I just I just get in the zone sometimes and just do some long stretches, and just is amazing. It feels so good. Like
Yeah, I
lower
agree.
back and hamstring, and stretch kind of till it hurts, painful.
Almost, yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I still do mushrooms every once in a while, and I do it for purely mental health. I don't do it for any recreational shit. The joke is that I'm literally trying to talk to God, right? So I'll do some mushrooms and shit. But my favorite thing to do on mushrooms is stretch. Because, like, if you do it right, the muscles are relaxed, you're not in pain, man, you can really, really, like, I found issues in my body where I'm like, oh, this is the muscle. And then stretch that out and, like, literally hold that pose for, like, 2 minutes, which I would never be able to do.
Yeah.
But I can do it there, and then 3 days later, after everything kind of heals up and goes back to normal, I'm like, cool. Literally fixed that back problem that I didn't know I had before I was doing mushies the other night. Yeah, you ever? So you drank? What other drugs did you do when you weren't sober?
Oh man, it's just I didn't really get into the drug stuff because, well, alcohol like basically took
Really?
over everything. I just like to drink.
So no pot, no.
Well, yeah,
no-
I would occasionally do pot, but I didn't really get too heavy into it. But yeah, the alcohol was just my friend.
So drugs were never a big thing for you at all. So you never took any creative inspiration from getting high or doing anything like that. That's so interesting.
No,
Did you ever find huge amounts of inspiration and creativity while you were getting drunk?
I mean I would think I would, but probably not. I don't think that was
So that was never like part of your process to
It
get
probably-
drunk and write music?
No, I mean it was just at the time we were just basically rehearsing a garage band, but it was just something because everybody else was doing it. You're just kind of surrounded by it. But
That's
you
super
think
interesting.
how at least when I was drunk I would think that I'd be doing better, but then I finally had one guy tell me the truth, be like, dude, you'd be so good if you were sober. Like
No
you have
shit.
potential, and he just gave it to me how I needed to hear it, and that kind of hit me and took me to heart, and I'm like, okay, I'll try to do a show sober because I'd never done that, and
Really?
things kind of changed, because alcohol dries your voice out. It's like caffeine too, and that
your
kind of
blood,
changed
too.
things, and then I had to flip. Because now I'm in my head when I'm in a show, because I'm not drunk and I'm lucid and I can see the people that are in front of me, and you get that kind of stage fright, and I had to like flip how I was interacting with the crowd into being like almost in the moment and just kind of going to this place in my head about the stories of the lyrics, and I had to use like different alternatives, almost like naturally escape in my head because I was so used to just being escaped because I had drank.
That's
So-
super interesting. I was the exact opposite. So I started off underage,
Mm-hmm.
naturally just not drinking, and immediately started playing. And then I quit smoking because I used to smoke cigs.
Mm-hmm.
And enough people gave me advice. And I was just like, I was still enough of an athlete to where I was like, I know if I quit cigs, I'll be better.
Yeah.
And I know if I really care about my music, this should be an easy sacrifice to make. And I did it.
Nice.
And it did work. It definitely worked.
Yep.
And I tried drinking once in doing a show, and it was like an underground show in a rehearsal space.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, fuck it, who cares? Let's just try it. Let's see what it's like,
Yeah.
just to know if we're even capable of it. And the answer was emphatically, fuck no, I'm not capable of it.
Right.
Like, it messed with my voice.
You were
like-
singing at the time,
Yeah,
not drumming? Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, drumming, I don't get drunk, but I go on stage with 3 drinks. I go on stage with a water, a Coca-Cola, or a Mountain Dew. It's got to be one of those two, or a Mellow Yellow. Sorry, Coca-Cola or a Mellow Yellow, because when you get them in the bar, they're fountain drinks. And nobody serves Mountain Dew in a bar. I don't know why, but Pepsi just never made it into bars, especially when you're on tour playing across the country. It's just not. It's always Coca-Cola.
They had like exclusive deals, like
Yeah.
Red Bull, I think was like that too.
Sure. Yep. And then I do get a beer. I do a beer, a soda, and a water. And when I'm done playing drums, all 3 of those drinks are gone. Like gone. like, and sometimes I'm even grabbing that ice and rubbing it on my forehead
yeah.
because I'm 180 degrees up there under the lights, dude.
Do you remember the drummer? I won't know the name of the band, but he used to drink water out of a gas can.
I thought that was you.
No.
No, I'm serious. I thought that was you. I thought you did that.
A drummer?
No, I thought you as a singer did that.
I don't think so. Unless I just randomly did it and didn't remember.
I do know who you're talking about.
He had like a star.
I know exactly who his name was Trevor, and he played for a few bands. One of them was called LTD with Dave Rogers from American Head Charge, and the other one was with my homie Josh. It was a band called 13 Step, and they turned their name into the United Freaks of America. That's what they were called. That's who you're talking about, right?
Wow, yeah.
That's who you're talking about, right?
That's
dude,
cool.
I have a good memory sometimes.
That's
dude.
great. Yeah, I'm impressed.
It's the connections, though.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do the steps to get there, dude.
Gosh, yeah. And that guy, he had like 55 necklaces on. You know, one of the guitar players always played without a shirt on. And I just remember
that was Matt.
He had like
that was Matty time.
Yep, Matty time. Yeah,
Matty time, dude.
Gosh.
Those are the old days, dude. Yeah, you're old like me, man.
Well, that's where my wife and I met, was at the Rock. So, like, we got a lot of history there.
Well, at the risk of sounding like I'm kissing your ass, dude, I just got to tell you how much of a fan of yours I am. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, dude. Like, there's not a lot of guys where I'm like, especially as a vocalist, for two reasons. Number one, I have high standards. I'm very judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
It's a personality flaw.
There
that's Matty Time over there on the left. That's the guy you were just talking about with the necklaces and always played with no shirt. That's him. And then Trevor is playing drums in the back. That's Trevor back there. And he used to play for a band called LTD.
Yeah, I remember both of them.
I wasn't a big fan of UFA. These are all my buddies, but I got to talk about them like they're not my buddies. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I just sound like I'm making everybody sound like the greatest band in the world. Like when you take the bias out of it, and I can do this with my own bands. Like I'm not a fan of some of my own bands that I've been in. I loved the guys in this band, and I liked them better when my homie Josh was in the band. They definitely got better when Josh was in the band. But like I just wasn't the biggest fan of this band for some reason, and I don't know what it is, because it's one of those deals where I liked all the guys in the band. They were fun live. So like if you're trying to make a recipe for a band that you're gonna like, I should have liked them, and I could just never put my finger on it. It's just like I just couldn't really. I don't know what it was, man. Do you have any bands like that? Well, you don't have to name in a local band. We're not trying to make anybody feel
all
bad.
the
They
time.
just came up, but like a national band that like they meet all the criteria for a band you should fucking love, dude.
For
But you're
sure.
just like, I don't know what it is. I can't get into it.
For sure.
What's one of those for you?
Oh gosh, for some reason the first thing that came to mind was Crazy Town. Like, I don't know.
Oh, that makes sense though, because that band sucked.
They have like it's like those bands.
Fucking horrible, bro.
I remember just hearing him on a Linkin Park. I had all the band DVDs, and I'd listen to him, and he was on like a Linkin Park DVD talking about how he wishes he had the success of Linkin Park. It feels like,
Oh, dude.
But there's like bands mostly bands that were one-hit wonders, where you like their one song and then you go and listen to their album and you're like, there's
so
nothing,
I'm convinced.
nothing else there.
I'm not high enough in the food chain to validate this, but I'm convinced. Like, you would have to show me some real, like, long-term, repeatable, verifiable evidence to prove to me that this theory isn't correct.
Okay.
I'm convinced that what you just explained is a band who had industry connections, knew the right people, got a record deal because maybe they kind of had a good voice. They put together a bunch of shitty songs, and then somebody came in and was like, dude, I'm going to lose my fucking $100,000. Fuck this. And they bring in a producer and like, I need a hit. I need one fucking hit single on this fucking record. Put it on there. Boom. These guys produce. Now I got my $100,000 back. Now they go off and they do their thing, and at least I can cut my ties.
Right.
I'm 100% convinced that that's why so many one-hit wonders not only happen, but it's exactly what you said, bro.
Mm-hmm.
They have one banger of a tune, and you listen to everything else, and you're like, this is dog shit. It's not just that it's not as good. It's not even that it's not good. You're like, this is fucking awful. Like, what happened here?
Right.
I'm convinced.
Well,
that's
then
what
if
that
you
is.
look at the credits too, of like who wrote the songs, and then you can kind of put some pieces together too. And I don't know if you were ever like the guy that liked to read the liner notes and who wrote
when they
who.
did that,
and,
yeah.
Like I remember.
We're old, dude. The kids don't know what we're talking about right now.
Like
They used to make these things
dude,
called
they're coming.
CDs.
They're coming, dude. They're coming back. If you follow the trends, it started with vinyl, like
They
what,
used to make these
5
things
to 10
called
years ago.
cassette tapes and CDs, and in that there would be a book. of some sort, or a magazine, if you want to call it that, based on the size of it. And in that, it had pictures and lyrics of all the songs, and there would be like literal notes of like sometimes on each song, right above the lyrics, who wrote that song. Other times it was just on the back of the package. But either way, this was like that's real music fan shit. There was guys who listened to stuff on the radio, and then there was us. And some of us would study that shit and be like, oh, I keep seeing this producer's name pop up.
Right.
And then when you really got nerdy, you'd go to the record store and you'd be like, so who else has Ross Robinson produced? And they're like, oh, there's this band Slipknot. You should check them out. And you're like, oh, fuck, man, this is dope. Or Bob Rock, or what's his name, who did Shania Twain and AC/DC and Def Leppard, Mutt Lange, right? Like, depending on your level of nerdy fandom, you would go down these rabbit holes. You would become fans of producers. That's how I discovered who Rick Rubin was.
Yeah.
Because I was like, every time I would discover a band and then my favorite record by that band, I would flip it over and Rick Rubin would be the fucking producer. And it didn't matter if it was fucking rock music or pop music or hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this fucking guy, Rick Rubin, dude?
Yeah.
So then when I heard anywhere, Rick Rubin signs up to produce X artist, I'm like, I'm buying that record because it's going to be that artist's best record. And it always was.
Yeah.
Always was, dude.
He has kind of a fascinating story. Like,
you guys kind of have similar vibes. When I hear you talk, you're kind of like calm, like patience. Like you both kind of have like very kind of like,
I'll take that.
almost like Buddhist level chill. And like,
But when you listen to him, he grabs my attention. He's fascinating. Kind of thinks about things differently, and just the fact that he didn't really that musical, so he claims, he just goes off a feel.
yeah, can't tune a guitar, never worked a mixing board.
Yeah. Have you read his book?
No, but I've heard so many interviews.
Dude,
I should still read
it's
his
so
book.
good.
I should still read his
It's
book.
so good. It's a good read too, because all the chapters are really short. So if you're not like really into reading, you can read a chapter and it's like 2 to 3 pages. It's like 40 some chapters.
My favorite quote that I heard from him is when somebody asked him, they're like, so you can't do all this music stuff. Why do you think all these bands like working with you? And he goes, and I'm going to do a terrible Rick Rubin impression right now, but he's basically like, I think I have good taste and they trust me to describe that taste in a creative environment. And when I heard him say that, I was like, as a musician, that makes so much fucking sense. Way beyond anybody else's explanation, including my own, of what made Rick Rubin a great producer, right? Because I would have been like, he knows how to get the best out of his musicians. Well, that's fucking super relative. But what he said is, when I tell them what they're doing sucks, they trust me. And I do it in a nice way as to not hurt their feelings and keep them creatively productive. That's what he really fucking said. And then when they're doing something super dope and they're questioning it, they trust me to tell them to trust themselves.
Right.
And stick with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. That makes very, very good. This is the greatest music fan in the world. That's what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
He's really the greatest music fan in the world with the best vision in the world. And I think I have great vision for this. So if you give me an idea, right, I see like in some of those like CGI movies where like all the pieces start falling in place and you can see the road in front, and I'm like, oh, I know how to fucking do something with this. But there are times like with Jeremy's project, that shit I was playing with for you before the podcast started, when he played me the demos of it, I was like, dude, I don't see the vision. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I want to be a part of this, but I don't see the vision, dude. I think I'm either out or I need to like wait until you're farther down the road. And I felt really guilty about that, because then once he was farther down the road, I'm like, yep, this is dope.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's what I pride myself on, right? So I should have been able to see the dopeness earlier on. That's what Rick Rubin can do. And the irony is he can't play an instrument. So where do you get where the fuck do you get the divinity almost divinity to be able to see somebody's creative vision and hear through all the poor playing and the bad sound quality and go, nope, that's a great idea. Let's turn that into
Yeah.
an actual record.
I mean, I think
That's impressive.
for some
dude.
reason that just gave me chills just thinking about like what that's like, because you have to music, that kind of music has to like move you and it has to grab you. At least if I'm Rick Rubin, if I'm a producer and I'm looking for a band, if they're a subpar, if they're a D- band, but they have like little glimpses of genius, I would be able to tell, like they have something.
I'd like
the
to
rest
think
of
I
it
can
sucks.
tell.
I think most musicians would be able to tell if they have something.
But he's not a musician. That's my point.
But I'm fairly sure he's seen enough shows where he knows good from bad.
So
even
where
if-
does that come from in the beginning, though? That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, now that makes perfect sense. And I'm sure that made sense in the 90s. But he was doing this in the 80s, in the early 80s, and didn't. Jason, while he's going to the bathroom, jump on the keyboard. Look this up. When was the first album Rick Rubin ever produced?
Well, wasn't it Run DMC?
I don't know. That's what I want to know.
I think he kind of
I thought he had done shit with
discovered-
the Cars before that.
No, I think Run DMC was like his first project, and that's kind of what busted him into the mainstream. Is he like took this underground hip hop sort of thing and then started
Really?
producing it and going to these house parties and
Did you
recording.
read his book?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to take your word over my instinct on this one because I did not read his book, and that was probably talked about in that.
It
book.
was either his first album or it was like one of the things that got his career really jump started.
Yeah, I got to clear this up. But yeah, I think that shit's super interesting. Going back to what we were talking about, which is reading the liner notes and getting into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I became fans of producers and realized it's not just about writing the riff. Because I started as a guitar player, being a Metallica fan. What was it for you when
the
you
riffs.
realized? So you were always drawn to vocals, I assume, as a vocalist. Did you start off on a different instrument first?
My dad played drums, and we had a Stetson red sparkle drum set in the basement. So I played that too. So it was always like feel and vocals for sure, like the feel of the song, the beat.
Let me ask you a silly question. How much did the lyrics of the vocals matter?
Not as much.
For me,
I wasn't like
they
a huge.
still don't fucking matter, bro.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, like, they could. I don't always want to know what a song's about because I don't want it to change my.
The Pricks was number one. Hose, Tila. So he was producing, and then it was LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, and then Run DMC.
Yeah. So Beastie Boys too.
So what did he do?
Tila Rock.
What did he do if he can't fucking play an instrument and he can't run a mixing board? What did he do to convince the Pricks to allow him to produce that record? That's what and I don't need this answer. I'm just curious about that, like that mindset. Like, you're not a musician. You have no experience. Nobody knows who you are.
He's got a vision. I think it just comes down to having a vision.
Right, and that
You're-
fascinates me. Like, what is that? Like, how do you even
Because
know?
if your 40-year-old self now goes to a band that they're 18 to 20-year-olds that have the passion, and you kind of give them the making money speech and the venue speech for capacity, like you'd rather play a 200-person venue and sell it out than an 800-person and have it 25% full. Start giving them the spiel. That's going to like give them vision and something malleable to go towards.
And you think he does that as a producer?
I feel like it had a lot to do with it for sure.
I need to read that book then, dude, because there's something about it that I'm missing, and I'm fascinated by it, dude, because I'm like, how do you have the confidence? Because he couldn't have been 40 back then, right? He was probably
Right.
only 20-something back then.
Yeah.
So, like, fuck, man, how are you that cool and charismatic? Like, because he is such an interesting person.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to, I don't know, somebody I was listening to, and apparently they hung out for, like, literally 2 days, and almost the entire time they just sat. He's like, let's just sit. Let's just sit. And finally, dude was like, dude, what are we doing? And he goes, well, I have found that when the mind is extremely active and the body is completely still, that's when the greatness comes. That's when great ideas come. And I was just like, God, bro, that is so deep, dude. That's so true. Like, that's literally meditating. That's literally meditating.
What do they call that? Like rough dogging it now or something?
I don't know.
When you go on a plane
I
and
don't like the sound of that.
you don't have any entertainment, you just
You just sit there and think.
sit there and stare.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man. That's one of my favorite things about mowing my lawn and the neighbors' lawns and shit. I'll jump on the riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
And it takes me a while. I do a bunch of the neighbors' lawns and shit, and I roll around. And sometimes I don't listen to music.
Yeah.
It's just me listening to the engine, and it is very much like just sitting on a plane, just sitting there thinking. There's times I notice I'm driving to work, and I'm like about to pull up in the driveway at work, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to turn the radio on. Yeah, what's going on with the Vikes? And then I turn the sports.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sports are one of the things where I never thought I would get out of it. Like, I always watched the Vikings. It was just part of my DNA. But then as I've gotten older and more interesting things come into my life, it's like I can realize I didn't watch the game today. And I'm like, okay, I survived.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, it is weird how little of a priority it becomes.
Yeah. I think when I moved to Eaglebrook is when it really started to shift because people just weren't interested in sports for some reason. It was weird.
Well, yeah, because Sunday is church day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, now they got youth sports on every day of the week, including Sunday, all day.
it's wild, dude. There's too much now. Like, that's another reason I want to move the podcast to Tuesdays, by the way, so I can watch Thursday Night Football. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
I mean, you could have it on. That'd create a good atmosphere.
We've done sports podcasts like that, where if it's like something we want to do, or we'll invite the boys over, and yeah, there's like 4 of it. It's like a Joe Rogan fight companion, but we do it with football.
Yeah.
Because I'll watch some UFC, but I'm not paying for any of those fucking pay-per-views. The entire pay-per-view model, and I don't care what anybody says about anything. There's something to me that feels incredibly gross about it. Like, dude, just put it on ESPN, sell the advertising, and let me fucking watch. Let me watch a fight, like a football game, like the Super Bowl. Like, dude, the Super Bowl makes more money than anything ever. You know what I mean? And it's not fucking pay-per-view, and it didn't become popular through pay-per-view. And I'm sorry if I'm going on a rant and like getting some all worked up, but like, dude, the whole pay-per-view model just, it grosses me out, and it always has. It's never been something that I've ever thought was a good idea. I feel like it's extremely short-sighted. Like, if it really matters, sell the rights to ESPN or NBC. Put it on mainstream television. Let everybody watch it. Sell all the commercials. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I just don't get it, dude. So that's why I think that's the only reason I'm not as into UFC as I am.
Yeah.
Is because it's such a literal paywall to get through just to enjoy the sport.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Well, I feel like sports should have had some kind of pay $5 a month just watch a game, for example. Like, if I want to watch a hockey game, can I pay $5 just to watch the hockey game instead of paying $50 a month to get the channel? You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of
That's
where
a good
I'm
point. So that actually is a pay-per-view at that point.
Like, I would do that, but when it's $50, I don't even know how much a fight costs. I've
Yeah,
never bought one.
that's what it is, yeah.
$60.
$100, yep.
And then
50
like,
to 100.
I think bar owners too, like when they would rent the fight, and like everyone would go to B-dubs, you know, and like to watch
pay
the
a different
fights,
fee.
they pay like per person or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's a lot
that's
more
crazy.
than what you and I pay.
Yeah.
I worked for a collection / private investigation agency for a short period of time, and I was on the collection side, but one of our investigators, because sometimes they bridged, because part of our investigation sometimes required some investigation, so we had PIs.
Okay.
And I was talking to one of the dudes, and I was trying to get him to come to one of my shows. He's like, I got to go to the main event, or Pickle Park, or whatever the fuck, GB Layton's, whatever the hell it was at the time, right? And I was like, what's going on over there? I know that club. I play there all the time. And he goes, yeah, I heard we're going to investigate. They're apparently not paying for the fights. I was like, what? And then he came back the next day and he showed me video. He goes, yep, so they had this place packed and they're showing the fights and they did not pay a commercial license fee for that fight. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Commercial.
They paid for the pay-per-view. And he goes, yeah, they paid for like their own pay-per-view, like a personal pay-per-view. There's a different fee, Jared. And I was like, how much? And he goes, I can't answer that question, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
And the vibe I got was like $5,000 or more.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't no $500 or $700 like they
Right.
because how much does it have to be in order for you to be like, that's not worth it, I'm gonna risk losing my fucking life? And that's one of the reasons, one of those people that owned that building, that's one of the reasons it changed names. And I don't remember if it was the main event people, I don't remember if it was GB Layton's people, the Pickle Park people, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But one of them lost the ability and had to sell that business because of that. And that's That's why. That's one of the reasons it changed.
Was it
names.
main event before Pickle Park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it started as. Was main event.
I don't know. I think it was something before main event.
It's
if
kind
I'm
of.
being honest.
I always thought it was interesting how clubs could basically go unheard of, and then our scene would kind of come in and just all start playing there, and it would become like the bar for a while.
I think that was Joe Spanbauer and Bill Berry.
Yeah, Bill Berry.
I think they would. I think they would identify because this is what I would do.
Where's Bill Berry now? We don't have to go down there. But,
Do you know the Bill Berry story?
No, we don't have to gossip about that. I haven't seen him.
It's not
in years.
gossip. I'll tell you what happened.
It's all good.
So he allegedly stole like $300,000 from a bunch of people.
Oh my goodness.
And absconded, and still to this day, as far as we know, is still wanted by the FBI.
Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah. I actually won't talk shit about Bill Berry because I just liked him, and he never fucked me over.
Yeah.
In fact, he hooked me up with a bunch of stuff. So,
I mean, the music business,
some people
you
hate
run
him.
into that.
Some people hate
unfortunately,
that guy.
sometimes.
Some people want that guy to die, and I will never, ever. Not only will I not wish death upon that guy, but I'm not even going to say anything negative about him. I understand why other people don't like him, but no, I think what they did is what I would do now. Right? Is you go into a place, you see they have a great setup, a great venue, the bar's in the right spot, the room's the right size, the ceilings are the right height. And you go, hey man, let's talk about doing some shows here.
Yeah.
Right? And then you bring in, God, I don't remember what his name was. I think it was Steve, where he had like true pro PA gear, and he had like multiples.
Yeah.
And you would hook him up, or he would hook you up, and you would pay him $200 a month or $2,000 a month or whatever the fuck it was. I don't remember, but you're basically renting a true pro PA,
Yeah.
and then that's your room fee now, right? So then you talk to bands and you'd be like, it's $200 a night if you just want to take the room, or you book your own shows. And then so it just started like an industry, like a business. So money was changing hands. There was people making money. There was a reason to stay involved. And they did that at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different places in town. And
That's
between
funny.
those guys all retiring, and then that same dude with the PA thing, him getting out of the game, basically what happened is a lot of the venues in town just got these shitty little wannabe PAs, and just nobody takes. I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, that's how those venues showed up out of nowhere and stayed a thing for a long time. It's because they had a good sound system, and once you have a good sound system, if you build it, they will come, right? And then once they took it out and switched owners, and somebody came in with a much shittier setup, it's no longer a staple.
Yeah.
They don't take it seriously. It's a negative feedback cycle.
So
That's my theory, at least.
Didn't the rock sound system go to Roberts initially, and that's kind of where the crew went for a hot minute?
Yep. I was kind of part of that move. I wasn't really working at the Rock. I never really worked at Roberts, but I was kind of tight with Brian for a little bit. And so when those shows all got moved over to Roberts, I kind of went over there and started messing with those guys a little bit. And I was in a couple different bands at the time. And
Yeah. So you were. Which one? Roberts?
65.
Oh yeah.
Ops 65.
Oh yeah.
Brought in a big old Soundcraft, nice, beautiful system.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Again, Spanbauer.
Really?
Because so and
Is he
basically
still doing stuff too?
kind of he
Okay.
runs sound up at Route 47.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He runs sound up there.
Gosh, I haven't seen him in forever.
And it's one of the better sounding rooms in town, and that's why. And that's, I think, one of the big parts about it is, like, back in the day, sound guys had a lot more credibility and push.
Yeah.
And so once they made a venue sound good, the bands would show up.
Yeah. They were kind of the genesis behind those movements then, probably.
Yeah, because they were sound guys that also turned into managers, or managers that also turned into sound guys.
Yeah.
And Shannon Brettel, I don't think ever ran sound, but she just hired really good sound guys. And she
Okay.
worked with a lot of the just venues that were already set up too. Fine Line, First Avenue, 7th Street.
Sure.
She worked within the structure that Joe and Bill had built at the Rock.
Blue Felix's
And,
manager, Shannon, or
Was she Blue Felix's manager?
I don't know. That name rings a bell, but I'm not putting.
Shannon Brettel was she was Black Flood Diesel's manager.
Okay.
Stasia
Dude, Stasia was so good.
Yeah, they were one of those bands.
I'll never forget when they came out at the show at the Rock and they were playing that Metallica riff, which like a Orion is the song,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And I'm like, this is the sickest riff ever. I'd never heard that song, you know. And they just
Really?
they just played. That was like before my time, you know.
Okay.
Like as a kid, I think the Black Album was probably one of the first ones. But anyway, they're playing this riff, and I'm like, this is a freaking awesome song. And then I come to find out it's a Metallica song. But that was like my intro to it, and still one of the best Metallica songs.
Oh, hands down, dude. They got a bunch of that. They got a bunch of that instrumental shit that ended up being their best shit. Not Dyer's Eve. What's the fucking one off Injustice for All? This is Black Flood. This is old Black Flood too. Yeah, look how skinny Greg was. Look how skinny and pretty he was. He was one of the good frontmen's.
Yeah.
Frontmen's. Oh my God, what's wrong with my fucking speech tonight? He was one of the great frontmen locally as well. I was just talking to him on the most recent podcast about that too.
I kind of stole the striped red and the black and white striped thing.
You stole that from him?
I took that idea from Greg.
I can't remember what I stole, but I stole 1 or 2 stage moves from him.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were because I think I eventually got rid of them.
Was it like the leg, you know, where you like pick your leg up and stamp down?
I don't remember. Probably not. I think it was something to do with my hand because I think he used to do
yeah,
this weird
yeah.
thing with his hand.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I started doing something with my hand because I just found it really like kind of compelling what he was doing live.
Yeah.
And so I think I started doing something like that. And then just like how comedians kind of like try to be like somebody else. So I was kind of trying to be a little James Hetfield. I was trying to be a little this guy. And then when I got into the local scene, I stole a couple moves from a few of you guys and shit. And then eventually I kind of became my own guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a time at the beginning where, I think the other thing was I tried to take part of his delivery and how he did some of his vocals.
Yeah.
And I just could not pull that one out. That's what it was. I stole the hand thing.
Yeah.
And I stole one of his vocal deliveries, and it just was not vibing with my voice, dude. It was the first moment where I was like, oh, I sound like shit. It was like the beginning of the end for me, just stopping being a vocalist. That's what basically ended it for me, is I realized I wasn't good. Like the sound of my voice wasn't great. I could hit my notes. Like I was a great front man, but like I wasn't a good singer. Like I didn't enjoy listening to my own music because I didn't like, you know what I mean? It was just like, dude, I'm literally not enjoying my own stuff. I should focus on something else. But
he was a good front man. That era of local rock was awesome. Like Quiet Drive, Head Charge, Stasia, Black Flood, Ginger Jake.
Yeah, that's
I'm
when
leaving
I came
out
up too.
I'm leaving out a lot, but
It's
that
impossible
was
to name everybody, dude.
that was a good time.
That was, and here's the thing, that wasn't even the golden age, dude. That was after the golden age. The golden age was right before that for our style music, for where we were coming from in the world. The golden age was right before that, which was the come up of American Head Charge. And technically 10
after
years,
the burial, was that in there?
No, after the burial was way later.
Okay, so
after
who was
the
in
burial
the
was like more of a Renaissance era when they rebuilt their own version of the scene.
who was in the Head Charge push?
So I don't remember there being a ton of bands that came up with them, but there was still, they were at like the end, they were like at the sunset of the golden era, because you had the Prince thing, he started it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had this like era where we had, was it Soul Asylum, The Hold Steady, which was a band called Lifter Puller, if I remember right, and then they became The Hold Steady. You had all these bands that came out of here, but they never, it wasn't like Seattle or LA where we built a scene.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So like all these bands were completely unrelated in genres.
Sure.
But there was like a genuine golden age where all these bands like legitimately came up and blew up from here. And American Head Charge worked with Rick Rubin to bring that back. So it's like, then
they like blew up and left instead of like blew
Pretty-
up and staying and cultivating
and
something.
how much does anybody really stay? You know what I mean?
I
Like, I
mean-
heard Nirvana wasn't popular in their own town. They blew up while they were on the road, and then came back and started selling out.
That's the funny thing about music too. It's like you could be so good, but just not be in the right era or the right city
Or the right town,
or the right country for that matter. I mean, you look at. I watch shows from Europe on YouTube, like full shows. I'm like, dude, it's just a different animal there. Like people appreciate music differently there.
Yeah, until you go to Nashville, and then you're like, oh, fuck, man, Minneapolis sucks. You know? Like, you see videos of the Austin music scene, and you're like, what the fuck happened to Minneapolis? Like, this used to be a legitimately dope town, and I don't want to sit here and complain. I hate this. I hate this about myself. Last time I was doing mushrooms, to bring it back to that, the phrase I came out with, the mantra I came out with is I complain too much and I don't do enough. So I got to reverse that ratio. So I don't want to complain too much. I want to try to be more inspirational and motivational about it. But like, we used to have something dope. We lost it. Other towns have built it. We can build it back, but we got to start genuinely, objectively critiquing and criticizing ourselves, and we can't keep depending on this LA company that owns First Ave and Fine Line and the Turf Club. There's like basically the 4 or 5 major clubs in town.
Yeah.
They're all owned by the same LA company. They're not part of this scene. They don't care about this town. They're running profitable concert venues. You know what I mean? These clubs mean a lot to us, but we don't mean a lot to them. We're just a ticket price.
I didn't know that they're out of town venue.
Yeah, that's why if you go to one of those websites, there's a bar at the top that links them all together.
Yeah,
like it's one major.
I knew they were
website.
owned by one company. I just didn't know that they're out of LA.
They're out of LA. Yeah, which is cool because then we get great concerts. We
Right.
get up and coming bands that maybe somebody in Minneapolis. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. What I'm saying is all the other venues in town need to step it up. So if this one company goes belly up because a new CEO comes in and embezzles everything and blah 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 blah, like oftentimes happens, right?
Yeah,
We can survive without them because they're not providing any structure for us.
yeah.
How much did Joe help you guys when you guys were coming up, when Emergent was starting to do shit? Because I know he ran sound for you guys and then kind of booked you and managed you for a little bit, or at least that's the way it seemed from the outside looking in.
Yeah, he started to help us towards the end of our
Pull that mic back
more
up, too.
more towards the end of our. I don't want to say career, but he got us on that Seven Dust bill, which was to this day probably my favorite show.
Do you got to piss? I got to piss.
No, I'm good, but
I sensed you having to piss. I got to piss. I want to.
I'm
I want
just
to pause
squirmy.
here. I want to pause here because I want to talk about that specific thing.
yeah,
Because I think most of us have either the first show that mattered,
Mm-hmm.
or some of us have just that one show that really mattered.
yep.
And I want to talk about that with you because it seems like you're not the only one in that band who felt that way about that show.
Really,
So let's play a song. You didn't send me any media, and I don't ever release forms, so we're gonna play. What should we play? Let's play a Montoya song. I know people are probably already getting sick of this shit.
can
but,
you play national bands?
No, because we will get copyright stricken for it.
And then what?
Drum?
So that means we get demonetized off YouTube. No, we'll play a Montoya song. This song's called Coalesce Apart. It's probably going to be the first single. Hopefully you guys like it. I got to pee. I'll be right back.
So many pieces. I thought we had enough. I thought that we had what we needed. I thought we had enough, but you showed me that I'm so broken and beaten. A fragile shell that holds me in. Now I'm just repeating everything you told me to. So I'll lower my starts to draw me in. Am I still believing everything you want me to? And when you look at these pieces, can you sense I don't want you to? I am perceiving that you can see right through me. And don't be so cruel, I am aware. It's a strange discovery that we coalesce apart. What if I would keep us together? It's slowly deconstructing me. I can't say that it's gonna be any different than before, but I know that you mothered me into the man I am today. Of the damage that's still here, it hangs an anchor from my neck, and now it's sinking. I am aware of the damage that's still here. It hangs an anchor from my neck, and now it's sinking. I will raise myself up here, alright. I'll take my hands off my face and I'll tell you why. I am farther from the wreck behind me. Now I can see. It's a strange discovery that we coalesce apart. What if I would keep us together? It's slowly deconstructing me. I can't say that it's gonna be any different than before, but I know that you mothered me into the man I am today.
We should be back. Audio back up too. Okay, good. My buttons are working. We're looking good. We're sounding good. So that was Coalesce Apart by Jeremy Montoya.
Perfect circle.
It does have a perfect circle vibes. And it's funny because he's not really
I mean, not in the best way, Jeremy.
he's not necessarily an APC fan or a Maynard fan. It's just that's just where that timbre in his voice, because he just straight up sounds like Maynard at times. And it's not by design. He's not trying to.
What's funny is he has like a lot of Maynard mannerisms too, and like pre-show ritual things.
So maybe he is, and he's just lying through his fucking liar teeth. He's the homie. I get to fuck with him as much as I want.
How many kids does he have now?
You can throw it up there, Murph. How many kids does he have? He has just one.
Okay.
Throw one up where?
But his wife has another one, so he's got the one, and then he's got a stepdaughter. You can throw it up on there, dude. I'm not going to pay attention to it too much until we start taking questions later, because I'm sure people are going to have some sort of questions. Yeah. But, so.
What is he? Is he typing in something?
We have a couple people in chat, and they're having more of a bromance with each other than anything, but.
Sanders?
Yeah, you know Sanders?
I was in a band with Sanders too.
Were you really?
If it's the same Sanders.
It's James Sanders?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, small world. So, so take me back to the Seven Dust thing. So, is Joe booking you, or does he just call you up and goes, "Hey man, I'm booking this show"?
Yeah, he was running, I think, kind of running that bill, and so he just said our name might be in the hat. And that was the one time I feel like I kind of pressed for something. Like I had a hard time asking for things.
Sure.
And so I feel like that was the time I'm like, I better take my shot. I might not get it again. And Seven Dust was like a top 5 band.
So
for
take me through that conversation. So I'll play Joe. So I'm going to play Joe. So I call you up. Ring, ring, ring.
Yeah.
Aaron, you took this phone call, by the way? You took the phone call, right?
Oh yeah, we talked on the phone.
Okay, so Aaron, listen, I'm booking the show at Seven Dust. I'm gonna put your name in the hat. You guys, I can't guarantee you're playing the show, but your name is in the hat. How do you respond?
I said something along the lines of like, whatever we need to do, I'll play that show. I'll sell the tickets. I'll make sure it's sold out. We won't play for any money. I'll even pay to be on it. It's something along those lines.
Really?
Like whatever we got to do. Like this can't pass me by.
I remember when I got the same phone call, not from Joe, it was from somebody else, and it was a different band, and I'm not even going to try to do that. But my line was, I was like, dude, obviously we're in, and we're going to crush it. So don't bullshit me. Like, obviously we're going to play the bill.
Yeah.
Here's all I'm asking, dude. Please don't make us open. And he goes, well, I was going to give you direct support, but now that I know you just don't want to open, fine, you'll play second. I was like, no, we'll play direct support. We'll play direct support. That was my conversation.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't care. I wasn't too concerned about the order of things.
So where did you play on that bill? Did you get direct support?
I think we just opened, if I remember correctly. And my mic kept cutting out.
Did it?
And it was like kind of one of our last shows. I remember it being like a really emotional show for me, and my mic was cutting out, and I'm like, I remember thinking in my head, like during the thing, like this is like a huge. And grab
somebody else's mic?
Yeah, I grabbed Gary's or Peter's mic.
I think I was at that show.
And I remember chucking it.
I think I was at that show, dude.
I was pissed. But anyway, it wasn't their fault.
Was that at the Fine Line?
Came. It was at Pickle Park.
It was at Pickle Park? I thought that was at Fine Line. Okay, my bad. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting.
And so when we got done playing, I freaking went off the stage, and I went back behind, Pickle Park has like those alleyway things, and I remember I just went and sat down by this garbage can and just like wept. I'm like, dude, how am I leaving? How am I going to leave this? Like I just reached this thing. I felt like I just reached this thing of like getting to play with one of my favorite bands, and I knew going into it that it was probably going to be my last show, and I just was just in this state where I just was like, how is this happening?
Wow.
I just wept because it felt like I was saying goodbye to music.
But you didn't do that in the middle of the show.
No, it was after the show. And that's maybe a combination, like I was saying, about just having those emotions. You just go on these emotional highs and lows that are just
you seem so
way more dramatic.
So chill, though. It's just so hard for me to like see you doing that. And I'm not, I don't know you.
Well, like I said, because that's like being on stage is an excuse to be weird and it be okay. And like I kind of took that as like just my way to get out and just be a weirdo or be different, expressive. So you just
put all that over there.
I think so.
So you can be this super cool, chill, stoic dude.
I think I always was like that. Like growing up, I wasn't really that outgoing, and I got picked on a lot, and so I just kind of stuck to myself.
So let's go back to the beginning. So when did you decide you wanted to be a musician? What was the moment where you were like, nope, that's what I'm gonna do?
Dude, have you heard? Yeah, there was a lot of things. I always was in music. At 2.5, I was singing into my Fisher Price, the one you used to press record on, and you had the little mic, and I'd record myself on cassettes and stuff. And my parents would always have me sing weird songs, Five-O Goes West and John Michael Montgomery, I Swear. Just these classic hits. And I just loved music in general. I wasn't just a rock fan, but I'd set all my stuffed animals up, and they'd be my audience and sing in the karaoke. But
nice.
Like I kind of had this. Oh man, I'd sing weird songs.
This is you?
That's me. I don't even know. Probably a carnival song.
Where'd you get this, Murph? Put the audio on. I can't hear it.
Yeah.
That's so loud. Turn it down, dude. That's better. Jason, show him how to go into the Focusrite and turn it down just to these headphones. Well, you were already good by this point. Murph, cut this. You were already obviously good by this point. Okay, so but we're going back.
This was like early emergent days, though, I think.
God, you look so different back then.
Because Carnival was like, I was in emergent when I found out about Carnival. But yeah, so get this. So XL Energy Center opens up in 2001 or something. And so
Sounds
2000,
right, like late 90s, early 2000s, because that's when the hockey team showed up.
so
Dude.
so 2003, or maybe it was 2001. Lincoln Park played with POD and maybe Hoobastank at XL, and it was sold out. And POD's up, and I'm in the pit, and they're like, "We want some people to come up on stage and sing this song with us." And like, I was the crazy kid that did everything, and so I'm like climbing over hundreds of people's heads to get up on the stage. And I get up and I go over the barricade, and I'm like going down to run up on the stage, and the security guard's like, "No, no more people." I'm like, "God, you gotta be kidding me." And then Sonny, the singer, like comes out and he like grabs my hand and he pulls me up on the stage. I'm like, yeah. And
Nice.
all the other guys are just sitting on there's like 20 of us kids up there. They're sitting on the side of the stage, just like frozen.
Now,
And
did you already know you're a good singer by this point?
yeah,
But did anybody else know you were a good singer by this point?
we'll get to that. So Sonny puts his arm around me and he walks me to the center of the stage, and I'm just like euphoric. This is amazing. Like 30 seconds later, I was at the other side and to be flipped, and I'm just kind of taking it all in, and all of a sudden he gives me the microphone, and I just start singing, we are, the youth of the nation. And somebody in that audience was looking for a singer knew a guy that was looking for a singer for a band, and they got a hold of me on MySpace, and I auditioned for that band, and I made it into that band, and then the bass player and the drummer quit the same day because they were like metal hair, like heavy stuff, and here I came. I was kind of like an Aaron Lewis type of vibe, and they're like, this isn't going to work if we're... But anyway, that was like how I got into music, so I always kind of felt like I was destined to do it in a way. And if you go full circle, Emergent was in like this battle of the bands.
Hold on. I got to press pause here. And I don't want to break up your story, but I want to tell this what I think is the right way. So you get pulled up on stage right before you start singing. You know you're good at this point. You've built some sort of confidence. Somebody in your life has implied you're good. Because I asked you, does anybody else know you're good yet? You said, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is like, are you going up there with the mindset of like, I'm not even like arrogantly. I don't mean like weird and like creepy. I mean innocently and passionately. Are you going up there like, I'm about to fucking show the world or this group of people who I really am? Like I'm about to sing and fucking have the most fun in my life.
I didn't know I was going to sing.
But you did know you could sing. You did know you were doing it, but you didn't go up there with the purpose of like, I'm gonna fucking impress some people.
Not at all. I just like to take those opportunities that would come.
How old were you? 12? 14?
I was 18 at that time. 18 or 19. 12.
Were we that old when that band was out?
Well, what's that? POD?
Because if you're my age, wasn't POD like, if they're headlining Excel Center?
They weren't headlining. Lincoln Park was headlining.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But still, we were like 14 when this going on. There's no way you were 18, dude.
Yeah. That was in 16 maybe.
You had
what year was that? 2000. I found it online. It was the Snowcore tour, but Lincoln Park and POD at XL.
You guys should be able to find that in the back.
I've tried to find videos of it or something, and the only
what year was it, Cleats? So
I would have been 19.
So
so I was
18.
19. I graduated high school in 03. So
okay, it just seems like it would have been like I just remember being like 14 when those bands were like at their height.
Yeah,
all of those bands.
I mean,
Anyways,
hybrid.
I'm sorry. So you go up, you fucking sing this shit, and who sees it?
So
it was
a random dude who had a friend. It was Pete Janesco was the guy he connected me with, who was the guitar player for
and he was at the
my
show?
first band. I don't think he was at the show. It was his buddy.
But what did he do? Make a video or something?
He connected MySpace was like at its beginning stages of popularity at that point. And so they got a hold of me from MySpace.
Okay.
And said, hey.
So then, then this is definitely, you and I are 18 for sure.
Yeah.
Because MySpace was not a fucking thing at 16.
Yeah.
It absolutely did not
And
exist
Facebook wasn't even, Facebook was like
That was a couple years
just
later.
for college kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a couple years later. Yep.
So that's how I got into that, and then I basically never looked back. I mean, I took a couple breaks from bands, but so full circle, Emergent was in this battle of the bands, like a nationwide competition, and we won.
This
to
was
get
it. This
to get
is
to
it.
play
Okay,
the
yep,
festival.
Okay. Yep.
So we played this festival, and we
So
and
this
PO'd.
wasn't, but this wasn't Joe Spanbauer's local battle of the bands. You joined something different through.
No, this was
93X?
Gig. It was called Gig. They were like a music marketing promotion company that would kind of. They were trying to build a platform similar to MySpace, but with just more music focus.
Right.
And then promote and highlight certain bands that were up and coming to kind of give them recognition. And so at the time we won that thing, and they brought us out to Wisconsin to play a festival, and POD was one of the headliners and Skillet. But I just remember, like, I wanted to tell Sonny that story. I'm like, this is going to be a story he'd want to hear and be like, that's cool, because you kind of got me into music. Like, you were that thing that initially first got me into it. And I unfortunately
So that was
didn't.
the event.
What?
But that wasn't like, just for the sake of clarity, you. That was the moment where you decided.
Well, I don't even feel like I decided. I feel like it just kind of was fate.
You went up there and you're like, this is what I'm supposed to do. You knew.
I don't think I knew even at that point. It wasn't until later on.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you track it back to that moment.
That was the moment for sure that got
Okay,
me into
okay,
music.
okay,
Because I don't know if I would have.
So many pieces.
Dude, what is going on?
I thought we had
So many pieces.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Montoya is secretly logged in his basement in his boxers. He's like, watch this. Check this out, guys. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of, I've always been a go with the flow kind of person, and I feel like that was just kind of going with the flow of what life was giving me.
Did you believe in God and shit by?
Yeah, I grew up in the church.
So so it's not the universe. You're like, this is what God wants me to do. This is my path. And then, because that was always a big thing for me, and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on, is that balance between like believing in God, being a Christian, and then trying to be in the music industry. That's the most important thing I want to talk to you about tonight. So I'm hoping we can tell these stories and somehow bridge it all together and get to that, because that's what it always was for me, dude. I remember being from 16, just being lost. To be in 26 and being depressed and just like crying while I'm like taking a shower, and I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? Just tell me. And every single time I would pray, every single time I would do that, he'd go, dude, I already gave you all the talents. You already know what you're supposed to be doing. Stop ignoring it.
Yeah.
Make music. Go do music. That's what you're here to do. Go do it. And that's why I'm asking. So you didn't go up there with the intent. You didn't leave the stage going, oh, this is the moment. But in retrospect, you can absolutely look back at that moment on that night on that stage and say, that's when God showed me that maybe I'm not supposed to be a world famous rock star. Because again, we're talking in retrospect, right? So now we're 40.
Right.
So maybe we're not supposed to be world famous rock stars, but whatever we're supposed to be doing is seated in music.
Yeah.
So maybe where you're supposed to be is what you're doing exactly right now with the church. But that wouldn't happen if that moment at the Excel Center doesn't happen.
Right.
Is that what you're getting at? Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Okay.
Yep. It gives me kind of chills to think about it, honestly, because when you can look back at your life and kind of see the moments that were the start of a chapter, like the chapter titles, I think those are those moments for me, at least, where they just can't be explained in a way that makes sense to anybody but me. You know, there are ways that God came and intervened and set the stage for something farther beyond my capacity to like put it together.
Sure.
And that I mean, I know that that's a cool story, and I've told that story hundreds of times, and every time I tell it, someone is like, wow, that's incredible, you know, and it's just it's an impossible scenario. You know, it's a 1 in a million scenario, but that doesn't mean that if you don't get put into music, like not everybody's going to have the same path. Right. And, you know, your entry into music is way different than mine. But yeah, there's just moments like that where you show up and you're like, yep, God was there for sure.
Yeah, but only if you believe in that shit, right? Some people believe in the universe or fate or a simulation, which the simulation shit is the one that cracks me up the most. Because I'm like, you guys are literally just explaining a digital God. Like, the simulation is God. Like, it's just an atheistic version of it. Because think about it, right? They're describing a programmer, right? An all-powerful creator that transcends space and time, right?
Yeah.
That knows the past, present, and future of everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on, dude. That's God. You're just describing God. Like, something that exists, something that created the thing we're living in, that exists outside of the thing we're... Come on. What the fuck are we talking about? That's the same thing, you guys. So basically, like, all these super smart atheist geniuses, they just figured out God. Like, that's all they're doing is literally describing shit we figured out thousands of fucking years ago, bro. That's the one that cracks me up the most. But
when, like, people come on to argue with Rogan about faith, those seem appealing to me, too. They're funny to watch.
Well, the thing that cracks me... Sorry, go ahead. Finish your
Well, I
thing.
was just going to say, because he just always seems like he's so hardcore against believing. Like, he needs to be convinced. Or some people need, like, a moment like that. And even if they do get a moment where God shows up in an undeniable way, they'll be like, well, it was because of X, Y, or Z. You know, and they'll dismiss it. But I think it all comes down to, like, you have to have faith and you have to believe without seeing. You know, if you see, you know, if those who can't see God believe with just the faith, then, you know, that's kind of part of the reward. And
that's deep, dude. I mean, that's deep, dude. That's for sure deep. The thing about the Rogan thing I think is interesting is I'm pretty sure he believes in God now. And I've been watching him and listening to him long enough to where, like, I'm pretty sure between the riots and him moving to Texas and being surrounded by a bunch of Bible thumpers, like, I've watched this guy's rhetoric change. And I'm pretty sure he secretly believes in God now. Like, he's not fully ready to be like, yep, I'm a Christian and I've accepted the Lord Jesus Christ. But, like, I'm pretty much certain that he believes in God now. Like, he went from a full-blown, like, fuck no, God is stupid for people who are sheep to, hey, man, I think there's something going on here. Like, if you really listen to him, especially when he talks about mushrooms, which is where I rededicated and rediscovered all my shit was through hallucinogens. Because I'm never going to say I stopped believing in God, but I think the most accurate way to say it would be I felt like God stopped believing in me for a little bit. And that just made me feel disenfranchised for a few years. And it was a short stint. It wasn't like most people where it was like the entirety of their 20s. But then, like I said, I did a bunch of mushrooms again. And I was like, oh, no, that shit's definitely real. Like, gotcha. Sorry, man. Sorry I quit listening. That was kind of my vibe when I came out of that one. I was like, oh, no, it's definitely still there. It's definitely still a thing. The crazy thing for me with all of that shit is, like, how much all the old, crazy, right-wing Bible thumpers ended up being right about a lot of shit. Like, for example, and I'm still I'm still literally pro gay rights just because they're people and I believe in freedom. However, all the old ass boomers that were telling me as soon as we legalize gay rights, they're going after the kids, and I laughed in their faces. And now they're literally trying to fucking transition children. And I have to be like, God damn it, they were all right. They were all fucking right the whole time, dude. Everything they said ended up coming true, dude. That's one of those moments of humility for me. I was like, oh, yeah, old people are smart. like, don't discount their wisdom. Like, yep, they may not understand computers, but hot damn, do they understand the world, man? Yeah. Because they were right about everything.
Well, and that history repeats itself thing, you know, and I never paid attention in history class, but the older I get, the more fascinating it seems to me. You know, like Jamal knows a lot about history, or if I want to know something about the way politics or government or anything works, I'll be like, I'm calling Jamal. I need to talk to him. Like, I remember calling him during the beginning of COVID. I'm like, I need your input. What's going on here? Help me understand. We had a Disney cruise booked that we had saved for years for. And so we moved into a new house February of 2020. March, we were supposed to go on a cruise. The day before we were going to leave to Florida is when the stuff started spiking. And they're like, we might have something here. It's going to get... And like, it canceled. They canceled our cruise, but we had like the choice to go, to fly, or to not fly. And there's people like calling me like, Aaron, you better not go. It's gonna giving their opinion, but we spent a lot of money on this cruise. So we're in this like dilemma, and I'm like, what do I do? You kind of gotta just, I'm like, if I'm gonna go out, it's gonna be Titanic style. I mean, I'm
guess
going.
What he said?
Huh? Guess what? Who said?
Jamal.
Oh,
You called Jamal and asked him his advice.
I don't know if it was for the cruise, but I did call him at some point. But I mean, I probably would have went.
So what did you end up doing?
Well, they canceled it.
Oh, they
canceled it for us, and then later we had to, you have to be vaccinated to get on the ship, and you have to go through a series of tests, and it was the most bizarre thing because you'd be in a tent, like one of the quarantine tents or whatever, and you'd go in these different stages, and people get tested, and there'd be like people cheering because they got their whole family down in Florida and Cape Canaveral, like ready to get on this cruise, and then you got another family that just got denied because they had COVID.
Creepy.
There was it was a super bizarre.
So did you end up going on the cruise?
We did.
You got through?
Yeah.
You guys got vaccinated? Do you regret getting vaccinated, or are you happy that you did it?
I mean, I don't try to think about it. It's done. So,
I dodged all those bullets like the Matrix, and it wasn't on purpose. It was like by an act of God, I felt like. Like it was like literally I was healthy enough to be at the back of the line. And then by the time I was eligible, there was enough red flags where, again, like my God-given instincts, like all the red flags were going off.
Yeah.
Like all the paranoia, all the survival instincts. And I'm going, nah, dude, I don't think I should be doing this. Like, I think I'm going to wait. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And now there's enough data that came out where I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I did. Because I have a weird itching suspicion if I would have done it, I would have been one of those people with one of those catastrophic injuries, which are super, super, super rare. But there was something like, call it your gut, call it God, call it the universe, but something was like, nah, dude, wait.
I feel like there is something even to that. Like you kind of bring those thinking those thoughts is going to bring that into existence in some kind of way too.
Possibly.
Like, I don't know if it's like predestined.
I didn't know about any injuries beforehand, but it was just like, it was instinct almost. That's the only way I can, other than God, I can only describe it as instinct, where it was like,
just
no,
trusting your gut for sure.
Especially when that mayor, Jason, see if you can tell him what to search. See if you guys can find that video of that mayor. I think it's the mayor de Blasio from New York, where he's like, if you guys get vaccinated, we're going to give you free fries. And then he's sitting there and he's like, wait a minute, have I heard there's a burger element to this? And then he goes, so you're telling me if I get vaccinated, I can get this? I can get this burger and fries? And then he sits there and takes a bite of the burger. And it's the creepiest thing I've ever seen in real time. And I'm watching this live, and I'm going, I'm pretty sure there's something wrong here. Like, because if
you have to incentivize.
Yeah, if it's strange. Good, why are you bribing me?
Right.
Like, not just with money, not with a free vaccine, not with a tax credit. You're like straight up like, here's a burger and this one. Play this video, dude. Do you know? Have you seen this? Okay, make sure. Yeah, put audio on because this is a pretty short one.
This is really going to help us out. And did you say free fries when you get vaccinated?
Turn it down. It's too loud.
I got vaccinated.
There you go.
You're saying I could get these delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this. Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This could be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But
what year is this?
This is in the height of the
pandemic. Just think of this when you think of vaccination.
Think of this when you think
vaccination.
Of vaccination. Free Shake Shack. Get a voucher for burger and sandwich.
I'm getting a very good feeling.
Pause this. Free voucher burger sandwich if you get your shot at an NYC mobile vaccine clinic. Get free fries with a burger or sandwich if you show proof of vaccination. Bro.
It seems like a Saturday Night Live skit.
Dude, this was the first moment where I was like, something ain't right here, dude. Something's not right. Because that is the most unauthentic, least genuine concern for my health. Like, you're literally telling me by taking this vaccine to make me healthy, you're going to give me one of the most unhealthy things I can eat in fries. Like, it just didn't make any sense. And it's like sponsored by Shake Shack. Like,
Yeah.
bro.
Like a $3 incentive.
Yeah, it's so weird. That just
to try to sell it. Seems
that just
strange.
freaked me out, dude. And so that was the first one where I was like, I'm gonna wait a minute, but we don't have to go any farther down this road, dude. I don't mean to get derailed with this shit, but long story short, where we were starting with this, we were talking about what were we talking about?
The bands and getting into music, and then the God moments.
Oh yeah. That's what it was. It was the God shit. So long story short, yeah, it was fate. It was God. It was my instincts. It's whatever you want. I was like, nah, I think I'm gonna pass on this. And now I feel like super glad, like I dodged that bullet. Dude.
Have you read much into like the gut biome and that there is actually brain connection there and stuff?
Yeah, and I got some gut health issues. So yeah, I don't want to sit here and say I'm well versed on it, and I'm very apprehensive to even give people advice or talk to people. Yeah.
So you know about the benefits of kombucha.
Yeah, I just can't. And I should probably just muscle through it. I get it, dude. You're right. Yeah. And I probably should, but I'm not there yet. We'll get there.
I feel like a lot of Americans are unhealthy too.
Oh, for sure, dude. I actually eat super healthy, and I'm still convinced I'm unhealthy.
Right.
That's how everything is. That's how bad everything.
Like I got really deep. I think it was Rogan or Rich Roll had this chick on that like studied plastics for 25 years.
Oh, and you're talking about the microplastics in literally everything you drink.
And that flipped my perspective, and I got rid of all my plastic water bottles. I got rid of heating. I didn't like to heat stuff in the microwave in plastic already, but that just solidified it. And now I try to only drink from glass. And I never thought I'd be that weirdo, but I'm like, this is pretty scientific, and obviously that stuff is man-made. I don't want that in my body. So
no, it makes sense. I was at the Coheed and Cambria concert up in St. Cloud, and I gave my wife my card. She's like, well, I was like, I need some food. Go grab me something. She could tell I wasn't feeling it at the beginning. Mm-hmm. She's like, let me go grab you some food. What do you want? And they had like this little area of food trucks. And I was like, I want you to kill me out of that food truck. Because everything they were serving was just sugar. And like that specific thing was floating around in my head. I was like, I can't eat healthy here.
Yeah.
Like, so kill me out of that food truck for $8. It was like, that's what I literally told her. And I know that's a super cynical way to think about things, but it's hard, dude. Like, microplastics are literally in every water source. They're in every food at this point. Like, it's so bad, dude.
That's weird.
Imagine being able to go back in time when they discover and start refining oil and developing petroleum products beyond fuel. And you have the ability to walk in and just be like, hey, not this one, though.
Yeah.
Like, not plastic.
Yeah.
Do we give away the future to China and Russia? Because, they're not giving a shit about plastic pollution. And do they end up polluting the world with the same plastic anyways? You know what I mean? That's the problem. Like,
well, there's going to be some other scenario that comes up that's maybe equally as bad. It's just preventing one thing bad to have another thing bad happen. That's kind of how I could look at it.
This is like, dude, this is where I like the only solace I have left anymore is God. Where I'm like, nope, it's written, it is written, and I catch myself saying that shit. I'm like, it is written.
Well, it's like
it's inevitable.
If
this
you go down,
has to happen in order for the whole.
I look at it as like
the whole deal to work.
I think one of the things that I have faith because of is if I look at my whole scope of life and say today's my last day, I got the rest of today to make what I have of my life. Like, what am I going to be thinking of and looking back on, and what was the purpose and intent of my life, and where am I going to be? Where's my thoughts going to be like in these moments of like the last few hours? And I feel like a lot of having faith is like believing in afterlife, in heaven and seeing your ancestors. But there's like also purpose of like, I hear this all the time, like people on their deathbed, the thing it all boils down to is love. It's like that covers everything. And like, did you love people and did they love you? And you're going to want people that you love around you in these last moments. And it's like, it all comes down to that.
Yeah.
And that's like what Christ embodies, is like the love to go to the cross. But otherwise, like, what's the purpose in life? Just to get high and drunk and stoned and have sex and play music and get this attention for me and just to lose it? Like that Johnny Cash song, well, it was Trent Reznor that originally wrote it, but Hurt.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash, that is like the embodiment, I feel like, of the addict that chases worldly things and realizes it's all shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for nothing. Like, you build this tower of trash, and you get to the next obstacle, like, oh, I recorded an album, or I played with this band, or oh, I'm a millionaire now, and then you don't get to bring any of that with you. So like, what's the point of chasing all that if you know for a fact you're gonna die? Why put all your pursuit and energy towards those things?
And it seems super obvious when the Buddhists, the Christians, anybody who's done enough mushrooms, like, they all come to these same conclusions. Like materialism, self-indulgence, those are not fulfilling paths for a life. So like, how many different people have to keep coming to the same conclusion? No matter what avenue they go, they all end up at the same. And again, for me, everything seems to be cyclical. It's like, again, we figured this shit out thousands of years ago.
Oh.
And no matter how much technology comes out, right? No matter how much doom scrolling you get, like, we keep coming back to the same thing. We need community, we need connection with nature, and we need to eat healthy.
Yeah. Did you hear in Japan they're
like,
writing?
Bro, it's a simple recipe, and nothing changes in that recipe ever. Same thing with mental health. You go back and look at what they described to fight depression in 1890, and it is the exact same fucking thing that the newest studies come out in.
Nature?
Which are hygiene, nature, sunlight, community, physical touch, exercise, diet. I know there's like fucking 9 things on here. But it's literally the same shit. No matter how many studies they do, it's the same shit it was in 1890 and in 1560. And then you go back to the Greeks and you listen to Plato and any of these fucking serious philosophers, they were jacked. They talked about fitness being incredibly important for the mind. They would literally wrestle. And then when they were exhausted and they could barely stand up, that's when they would go sit down. That's when dude was sitting like this with his head, because he couldn't hold his head up anymore. So he was sitting there literally holding his head up. And that's where that famous thing comes from, because it was in that moment when his mind was still extremely active, but his body was extremely idea that he had one of his great philosophical breakthroughs. So again,
that was who?
I don't remember. I think Plato or whoever the fuck is sitting on his fucking, that famous statue where he's sitting here. Yeah. And he's got the chin under, or the fist under his chin. I think originally it's actually up here by his cheek. And I think, and I think it's Plato, right?
The Thinker, that's what it's called?
I think that's what the statue's called, but I think it's a statue of Plato. I might be wrong about that. I might even be conflating a few pieces of wisdom here. Yeah, now, ironically, if I remember the history of this right, the Thinker, the original statue, his fist is actually on his cheek, holding up his head, and this is a remake, if I remember right. Yeah, this is in 1904. The original one, I believe, was destroyed. I think that's a rendering of the original. I think that's a rendering of the original. I think the true original, his fist is on his cheek holding it up. But I might be conflating a few different stories about this into one big point here, but they figured out all of this shit a long time ago.
Right.
And we have not evolved at all. We have not learned a fucking thing, dude. People talk about how politics now are so scummy between people like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And we used to have class. I even hear Joe Rogan talk about this. Man, you listen to Mitt Romney and Obama, and they had so much class and distinction, and how far we've fallen. Bro, dude, you could probably find this up. American politician accuses other of incest. I swear to God, on the presidential campaign, one of the presidents accused another presidential nominee of incest. Like, we are not classy. We've never been classy people. Like, we've always been savages, dude. Like, why do you think we can't learn as a society? We've never really gotten better. And anybody who thinks we've gotten better is just seeing the best parts of us slightly get more polite.
I mean, the Apostle Paul said it best, like, I know what I want to do, but I do the opposite. Like, I think internally we as humans want to do the right thing, but there's just something in us. We're sinful by nature. We like want to do, so it's like balancing that and giving that to God in some scenarios. Some people will pray for the temptation to not overwhelm them, but yeah, it's like, I think people in general want to do the right thing. It's just a matter of.
No, I'm talking. This is super old, dude. This is like 1900s, dude, like 1800s. So, you call it, and Christians, we all call it being born of sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't believe in God, they describe it as being primal, animalistic,
Yeah.
instinctual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rogan talks about it, the chimp brain a lot.
Yep.
And I think there's something to that. I think there really is something to that. Have you ever heard of the? Are you a Tool fan?
Mm-hmm.
You know the song 46 and 2?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the like lyric video that syncs it up with the Carl Jung theories
No.
of like what that song actually means?
Uh-uh.
So I'm probably going to fuck this up, but basically what it means is like in the theory of evolution and spirituality and the harmony and disharmony between the two, what the theory is that when we only had, we would be, I think it was like 42 plus 2 chromosomes. And these numbers might not be right, so don't hold me to this, but conceptually it's simple. It's like steps. So like primal, like one step beyond chimp, one step before human, it's like 42 and 2 is the chromosomes. And what you end up there with is like a harmonious collective where none of those animals are truly 100% selfish. None of those animals can think beyond the self or the group, right? It's kind of a self-contained consciousness, but there's an absolute harmony there, and you see this in animals and they think there's still a couple of these types of humans, like very, very like uncontacted tribes on a couple islands and a couple remote parts of Africa.
Okay.
And then there's the next stage of evolution, which is us, our version of humanity, which is we're very conscious. We can think way beyond the self into extrapolating insane ideas, including, learning science and exploring the solar system and coming up with inventions and blah, blah, blah. But we're very disharmonious because we're very selfish at the same time. So as far as we can see beyond the self, we're still very self-motivated. We're not community-based. As much as we're still pack animals, we're still very disharmonious. And this creates angst, depression, violence, jealousy. It creates that idea of sin.
Okay.
And so the theory of this song and this Carl Jung thing is there's a next stage of evolution coming. And this kind of lines up with some Christianity, in like ancient Christianity, Judaism, even some Buddhism and some Hinduism, which is there's another stage of evolution happening, which will be 46 and 2. So where we're at is 44 and 2. And the next stage will be 46 and 2, which is where we will have that harmonious, selfless collective that the primitives have, but we'll have all of the consciousness and the inquisitiveness and the brain power and the creativity and the passion that we have at this level. So it's about like we're not done yet and we can't get there in this form. And that's very similar to Christianity, because Christianity is kind of like saying as long as you're in this human shell, you will be of this sin, right? Which these guys kind of describe as the primal self. And they get into some other shit about like it's really about ego and about getting past the conscious self and even doing shadow work and going to truly like learn the self.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's about this idea of evolution and spirituality and the kind of the balance or the nuance between the two. And I think there's something there. I don't think it's literally true what they're saying, but I think they're stumbling upon a similar metaphor or a similar analogy that some of the ancient mystics who founded all these Abrahamic religions and even things like Hinduism and Buddhism, I think they're stumbling on some of the same truths that these guys were trying to explain back then. And that's, to bring it back to what I was talking about earlier, it all seems to be cyclical. And we just can't seem to figure it out, man. And that's what I'm most fascinated about.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we'll ever figure it out with or without Jesus on this earth, or because he's the truth, the light, and the way, right?
Well,
Like, so all his wisdom is like infallible.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to argue with the logic of Jesus, it's like, dude, you're not being honest, because you can't argue with the logic of Jesus. He's the only person who's ever had infallible logic. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Like, never made a mistake.
As far as logic goes, right? Like, 'cause he even admits that when he was young, he made mistakes, when he was a child and shit like that. So, but as far as his logic and his wisdom and his teachings goes, there are no flaws in that.
Well,
so
but
why can't we learn? Dude?
Well, it's funny, even the people that grew up around him that believed in him, they would even see his miracles and then they wouldn't believe.
What do you think that is, dude?
I don't know. That's the
'Cause
great
you talk
mystery.
about the Apostle Paul thing, and it's like, yeah, I know what I want to do, but I still don't do it.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to be the best version of yourself, how would you see that? What would you be doing? Like, where would you be living? What would you be doing for a career? Like, the best version of your fully capable mind and body, and like the shape you're in. And, like, is it running an Ironman just to know you can do that? Like, your body's in tip-top shape, you're eating the best things, you have enough money to go to the grocery store without like worrying about the price, and you're living in a comfortable community, you have like all these things. Like, we can all get to this potential, but there's just something that like keeps us where we're at. And maybe it's like going back to that band thing, like, we're used to what we grew up with or what we have.
What you mean about not getting paid?
Yeah, and just like maybe not. Some people just don't have the energy to push for more. And there's a book I read this year called Halftime by Bob Buford. He was a big like television conglomerate, owned all these TV companies, and he got to this point like in his 40s where he had to like make a decision. And it's either you like coast into retirement and just kind of do the bare minimum to get by until you can like enjoy your life and retire, or you can make the second half of your life significant. The first half you're building your career and like what you want to do. In the second half you either can coast or you can make it significant to make a difference in the world. And you got to have like one thing in your box, is what he said. Like, pick the one thing that you want to chase and pursue and just go after that. And that was like a huge impact for me. It's like I've put multiple things in my boxes at different times, and I just have to put one thing in the box.
So you just narrowed that down to music, and then the point is like, what does that look like?
Well, it's God for me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Music is obviously a huge part of that, and my family and my wife are a huge part of that. But I think if we're both chasing God, God's up here, my wife's here, and I'm here, and we're both doing that together, we're going to come closer towards we're pursuing the same thing. But if we're pursuing worldly things, we're going to go this way. It's kind of how I was taught and told. But humans are weird.
We are fucking weird, dude. And I don't like most of us. And I know I'm not supposed to say that. I know that's not the most Christian thing to do or say, but like, I have to admit it out loud. I have to be honest with myself and the world. Like, most of us are really shitty.
Well, how did you grow up? Like, what was your childhood and your association with people? Like pre-middle school.
I saw the worst in people right away, early in life. Like, I was around a lot of bad dudes, a lot of bad people. And yeah, so I see what people really are when they think people aren't looking, because that's the other part of being that age around those people, is you see the facade. You see what people are like when adults come over. Yeah. And then when nobody's around to judge them, and it's just a little kid that they don't care about in the corner, then you see the real devil come out. Like, and People will be cool and selfish until real survival's on the line, and then you see the animal in people come out, or the devil, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever it is, man. But like, no, most people are super shitty. Like truly good people that you can truly trust in a crisis, that won't act in their own self-interest, and they will help the group.
Yeah.
Man, those people are few and far between, brother. Like, and I can truly say that with confidence. I know that to be true. That's not just a paranoid theory because I had a bad. No, like that's reality. That's why, and I think everybody knows that. I think everybody knows that in their bones, which is why most people do not have more than a handful of best friends. And the longer you get through in this life, the more you realize how important it is to have great friends and family and loved ones around you. And so I think people can argue what I said with a lot of idealism and a lot of hope and a lot of like buzzwords. But I think all of us really in our heart, we know what I just said is true. It's just a matter of whether we're willing to admit it and say it out loud. And I understand that may make me sound like a bad person. I get that. I am a bad person. Like, I'm constantly trying to be a better person every day, always. Like, I get that. I don't have the best outlook every single situation. I get that. But that one, I think it's like a universal truth. Most people are shitty, especially when they're not sitting from a position of abundance. You know, if they can't help anybody and then somebody tries to take something that's theirs, you know, if food is scarce, if money's scarce, people get real territorial. They get real chimp-like real fucking fast. And
so how much of your like perspective do you feel like is shaped by that, or like people in general?
Damn near all of it, right? Doesn't it have to be? By your direct experiences? I think my actions are shaped by my own ideals and hopes. So I don't behave that way. In fact, I oftentimes intentionally give myself the shorter end of the stick to make sure that people know that they can trust me. I go out of my way to be honest. And I fucked that up. Yep.
Yeah.
I admit I'm a bad person all the time, because it's important to me that people understand I'm not just trying to be the same piece of shit that everybody else is. I am a piece of shit like everybody else, but I'm trying to be a better person.
Right. It's like when we were trying to test the cameras and stuff, you kind of said what you were thinking. Like, we need to test the cameras right away so we don't run into this issue where we're time crunch. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but this is just what, you're like.
And there's a reason why I came to this.
Yeah. And it's just like the sales tactic that if you're selling a product and it can do nothing wrong, if it's, it does this, these infomercials, it does this, people aren't going to believe that if it doesn't have at least one quality that it can't do, or like one negative about it. Like if you just admit one thing that you have wrong, then people are going to perceive you as more truthful.
Yep. Yeah, and that is a good sales guy, right? He goes, well, what makes that guitar better than this one? And I would always be like, well, they're different, right? This is better if this is what you're looking for. This is better if this is what you're looking for. This is what this one does great. This is what this one does not so well. That one over there, A, B, C, D, blah. You make your decision. And that's why I sold more guitars than most people.
You guitars?
Because and but I wasn't that sales guy who pushed it. Oh, no, Gibson's the best. Oh, Fender's the best. Oh, PRS is the best. It was like, no, which one's best for you? And then I would figure out what mattered to them, and I'd go, oh, well, then this one is the one for you. And sometimes I'd talk them off the ledge, and I'd be like, dude, don't waste your money on a $2,500 guitar. Like, the things that matter to you are getting two $1,200 guitars.
Right.
And they'd be like, wait, what? And I'd be like, what you're saying is, in order for me to help you accomplish your goal, is you need two distinctly different guitars. Don't go get the $2,500 guitar that you think's going to do it all.
Yeah.
And you trust me, you'll walk out of here way happier. And they always did, dude. They were always and technically I sold the same amount of gear as far as dollars, right? But but they didn't walk out of there with one super fancy guitar. They walked out of there with two utilities.
That's a win-win.
Yeah, dude. It's ethics. And that's where I try to drive everything from. And that's why when I piss people off and I offend people, I'm like, I get it and I'm sorry and I'll try to be better, man. But like, at the end of the day, I'd rather be an honest asshole that you can trust than a really polite piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think most people are really polite. Everybody's more polite than me. But dude, I see them lie to people's faces like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's super fucked up. Why did you do that? And they're like, well, because, it's easier. And I'm like, yeah, but you just lied to that person. Like, they're
Right.
going to take that and move with that forward, thinking that's where they're going to build their new truth from. Like, whether it's in sales or in whatever. I'm just like, dude, that is just not the way we should be doing things. But not everybody lives by my moral code. And that's why not everybody gets along with me. Because I'm willing to fucking have a very awkward and uncomfortable conversation because I think it's going to bring both of us to a closer version of the reality.
Should we put it to test?
Yeah.
What'd you think about me before you met me today? What was your
I thought you
perception?
were way more flamboyant. I thought you were way more, what's the word I'm looking for? Eccentric. Like you're way more stoic and chill than I ever imagined. Because when I saw you, you were on. Speaking of, so is that a different version of you live that I met? Because we never hung out, but I met you like 4 times, right? And it was always in passing. Hey, man, great show tonight. Fucking loved you guys, dude. You're the man. It was shit like that. You know what I mean? Shook hands, moved on. Because you're a rock star, and at that time, again, who I was in my career, it was like, I'm not worth your time.
Well,
You know what
I don't know. I don't ever
like
look
Jamal
at that.
and I weren't even that tight at this point yet. You know what I mean? Like I was just so far out of your orbit where it was just like I got to kind of swing in there, give you my props, and then but I wasn't like tight with anybody backstage. So like people would ask me like, "Who the fuck are you, dude? What are you doing back here?" That kind of shit. It was like I could get back there for a moment because I knew the right people, but it wasn't like, "Oh, that's Jared. Oh no, he's cool."
Yeah.
I didn't have that cred with your crew.
See, I didn't have that perspective ever, and I still don't. Like I would hang out with some of the people that you'd never expect.
And I didn't
Like
mean
in
that about
that-
you. I just meant about that, like security, the people that handled backstage. Because
Sure.
again, you're doing the 7 Dust show, you're doing all this dope shit. I'm not in a position where I know the right people at the right venues to get in a room with you and hang out with you.
I liked the flamboyant answer though, because I can totally see. Because there was some things that I would totally do that was strange.
I mean, I definitely was as a front man. I was flamboyant. I mean, you were more eccentric than flamboyant, though. But yeah, I just thought you were more like crazy.
Yeah.
You know? Like really fucking artistic, like really out there, like fucking.
I remember
I
when
half thought you'd have like I half thought you'd have like one part of your mustache like curled up, like dude from a series of unfortunate events. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what I expected, dude. Is that the answer you were looking for when you asked me that question?
I mean, I heard a message by
I'm actually
our
more
old senior.
impressed. I'm more impressed than I am anything else by how chill and stoic you are. And it really just blows my mind how different your mind works than what I thought how your mind worked from seeing you on stage. And that's why I asked you, is that a different personality? Did you name that like an alter ego?
I never really named it. That's who I thought I kind of had to be, I guess. And I would adapt to the crowd often.
Did you like make it into a character?
No.
Okay, so you
But
didn't become a different thing.
I mean, I think I did become something different. I think the music kind of would just sometimes take over, and I like to put on a show. There's some acting that goes on in it, and you look at like a Alice Cooper show, like that dude put a show on, and there's thought behind it, and you came to see something. Like I've seen so many shows, I'd seen thousands of bands. I knew what a good show was, and I wanted to bring some of that to the people, and especially when we started getting some higher profile shows, like we got to play with Saint Estonia. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher it. But it was like the singer the old singer from 3 Days Grace and 2 members from Stained.
Oh, okay.
And Stained was like my band growing up. And so we got to play with Mike and hang out with him for a little bit. And the good.
Is it Mike Smith? Is that his name? You're talking to the guitar player from Stained, right?
Yeah, Mike Mashuk.
Oh, Mike Mushek.
Mike
Smith. Who am I thinking of?
But anyway,
I think
you
that's
just
a football coach. Never mind.
we just kind of just do these shows, and I remember we were doing our warm up, and Adam Gontier, the old 3 Days Grace singer, and Mike Mashuk are standing like in the back, and they're watching our sound check. I'm like, oh crap, I better be on. And it's like we did this sound check, and I'm hitting these notes that are like 3 or 4 steps above my range that I typically would do, and I'm like, how is this happening? It's like something just kind of took over, and Matt Burke was like, dude, you were hitting these crazy high notes. And I'm like, I didn't know it in the moment, and then I watched it back, I'm like, man, I couldn't recreate that. So it's like sometimes in these moments you just kind of go, or I would just go, and it just happens, you know. And then
it's hard to explain, dude. It's just the perfect synergy of inspiration meets adrenaline.
Yeah.
You know, it's the physical and the mental just perfectly line up, and it's almost impossible to recreate. And I think that is the definition of live music. Like, it's this perfect synergy of the creative expression and the physical act of doing that. And there's a magic that can never be properly redone, even through the choreography of pop music and a Britney Spears and you know what I mean? Like, even they don't have the same show twice.
Right.
They try to do it. They try to have the exact same show every night, and they never do. That's live music. That's really special to me, and I think that's what makes that magic that you're talking about. Is like, wow, fuck, how did I do that?
Right.
There's so many times, dude, I thought I had a shitty show. And I was like, no, dude, I was totally off. I fucked up this fill. And my band members are like, no, dude, you were great. You sounded great. And then fucking Murph would send me the audio, because he used to record every once in a while for us, pull the audio shit for us, or he'd send me a video. And I'd be like, holy fuck, I did sound really good.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was I listening to on stage? You know? like, no, they're right, dude. I did sound good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that same thing from earlier. You know,
Your
I'm gonna
own
beat
worst critic.
Yeah, I'm going to beat myself up, and I don't think very highly of myself as much as I come across like I do.
Dude, that's a whole other thing that I got into hard during COVID. Is like what you tell yourself matters a lot. Like, your internal dialogue really shapes who you are as a person. And I didn't really pay attention a whole lot to that,
right,
but
dude.
man, most of my thoughts were negative, you know. And I read this book called Scene. It's just a short read, but they said something along the lines of 85% of our thoughts are repetitive and 90% are negative. I'm like, that can't be true. But the more I thought about it, especially in this younger generation that's coming up, is they're faced with so much stimuli that they've seen it all, they've done it all. Nothing impresses them or catches them or wows them anymore. And so I think it's easy for them to just think negative stuff, or there's not a lot to put their purpose towards or whatever, you know. Maybe we had to discover those kind of things. We couldn't just go on YouTube and watch it in 10 seconds. We had to put effort into discover music, write a song, play a band, form this stuff. How do we find the members? And it was this process that took years sometimes.
Well, and we also got to fail in private.
Yeah, that's true too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now everything that people make has to immediately be put out there in public.
Hi, public.
That's what makes the live podcast kind of an irony, is we don't get to edit out the bad parts.
Yeah,
But I think
there's
like
something
the authenticity.
I do too, because I think music can have this evolution of being so pro. It got to a point where it's so pro and it's so fixed, it's robotic.
Don't you think that's what birthed grunge?
I mean,
80s metal got so fucking polished.
Yeah.
It got so industry standardized. There was no soul left in 80s hair metal.
Yeah.
That grunge was the closest thing to authenticity people could find.
I mean,
and then grunge got commercialized. And guess what came out of that? New metal. And then new metal got commercialized. Guess what came out of that? Metalcore. Metalcore got commercialized. Guess where we're at now? I don't fucking know. What is even going on anymore? But I think
dude, Sleep Token.
Oh yeah, that's the one everybody's talking about, dude. So are you into them?
Have you not heard them yet?
I've heard them. I'm not into them yet.
See, Zach got me into them early.
Boyd?
And then it's kind of one of those things I think he kind of gets upset if a band blows up that we discovered.
Do you jump on a band right away the first time you hear them? You're like, I like it, I'm in?
I did with that band, because they were different, and the singer's phenomenal. I mean, sometimes it sounds like he has peanut butter in his mouth when he's singing. You are a garden twined with oil. You got diamonds. You know, he just. But they're phenomenal, and we saw them before they blew up at Cold
Stay
Kingdom.
close to that mic.
Cold Kingdom opened up for him at what's that? The Varsity. And as soon, I'm that guy sometimes. If I'm like into a band,
Oh, that's
I'm
right. You
gonna.
sang for Cold Kingdom.
No, we played a lot of shows together.
I thought.
But Zach and I
as
were
a chick singer.
Yep.
Okay, my bad. I'm mistaking two other bands.
Oh yeah,
Did
the
you two-
summoning.
Wait, did you two create a side project recently that
Yeah.
didn't go anywhere?
Well, I mean,
What's
it
the
depends.
name of it?
Me and Ian and Zach had False Floor,
False Floor. That's what it
which
was
I've
called.
totally kind of forgot about that.
I
band.
heard one track. Zach played me a False Floor track, and I was like, "Dude, that's fucking." Sick.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
we had some great music, and just sometimes something doesn't.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
happen.
be insulting by saying.
No.
By when I said it didn't go anywhere, I'm sorry. That was.
I get
super-
no. I don't take offense to that.
It was a project that didn't turn into a full blown band.
Yeah,
That's the.
it was like a fun
professionalism.
writing project. We didn't
That's
have any.
that's what I need to get better at is that moment right there.
See, and Zach's good
I
at
should have
that.
said that right the first time.
Zach's good at like writing music for the intent of writing it. Like he does a lot of that, and he'll send me some stuff, and it is good to just write, to not get like notoriety. And that's like Rick Rubin's thing. He's like, if you're not gonna write for yourself, if you're writing for a purpose to like appease somebody, then it's just gonna be crap.
Right.
Because you're not writing for who you are as an artist. And I think as a lyricist, it's really hard to do that. To be like truly honest. Like sometimes I can't even tap into my own feelings. Like
I've said this on the podcast 1,000 times. The greatest art that we know of, the most popular art that we know of, and the two I summon the most are, that's a weird choice of words, the two I reference the most are George Lucas, when they asked him, why did you make Star Wars? And he goes, well, because nobody else made this movie, and I wanted to watch this movie, so I made this movie. And then Metallica. They're like, so why do you make this kind of music? And they're like, well, nobody was making the kind of music that we wanted to listen to, so we made the music that we wanted to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about all the time, I can't listen to my own podcast because I hate the sound of my voice, and I couldn't listen to my own vocals.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm not singing and I'm writing the music, the guitars and the drums, and I'm writing the songs, I fucking love listening to my music.
Yeah.
It's fucking dope, dude. And that's why, like, when I do really good shit and I make dope music, I don't need anybody else. And I feel like this comes across as super arrogant because I think a lot of people don't understand what I mean. I don't need anybody else to tell me it's good. I know it's good.
Well, right.
Like, I don't need anybody's. I know this is fucking dope. The only thing I need in regards to other people saying it's dope is that kind of like, oh, good, somebody else also likes it.
Yeah.
Because I don't need somebody. I've been with musicians in bands where they're like, so do you think I'm a good drummer? And I'm like, bro, if you don't think you're a good drummer, then you're not a good drummer.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like, bro, that's the first thing that needs to happen is you need to think you're good.
Right.
And then find other people that also think you're good. And then
loving
do dope
yourself.
Shit. It sounds kind of self-indulgent, but it's true, though.
There's a lot of Hollywood people that like claim that they don't watch their stuff like ever, and I feel like if you're in a type of entertainment career, you have to like your own stuff, or maybe you just don't like yourself. I don't know, and you just do it because it's a job. Maybe that's where they're at.
I feel like the podcast thing for me is different, though, because it's not art.
I mean, it is in a way. You got a setting.
You know what
I mean, you're bringing your taste to it and setting it up, to your liking. And
no way, dude. No, because here's my definition of art. Tell me what you think about this. So my definition of art is it's something that is created through inspiration and or suffering. Well, fuck. Son of a bitch.
I mean,
you got me because I was inspired to create this podcast.
that
Son
that right there.
of a bitch.
I think that right there sums it up.
You got
I
me.
mean, it's created in, what was the first one you said? Suffering or what?
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
Like some people write a song because they had a kid. There's no suffering as a
Right.
dude having a kid.
You
You're
have
just
kids?
Inspired. No, but me and my wife are trying to have kids right now. We both want kids, so we're still actively trying. And there's no suffering for a dude, at least. I mean, maybe with a woman, she had 9 months of her body changing. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not trying to go too deep into the woman stuff, but with men, if you have a kid, there's no suffering in having a child.
Yeah.
But plenty of dudes write songs, hit songs, because they had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think outside of that, true inspiration, true like love inspiration, I think all other art is created through suffering. It's either inspiration, like I fell in love,
Yeah.
right? Where I had a baby, which is kind of fallen in love, I guess. Would
Yeah.
you agree? You have kids.
Mhm.
It's kind of the same feeling, right?
Oh, for sure. It's almost like my heart
I
got
don't even have kids. What the fuck am I talking about, dude?
well, and it is like I always used to hear, you're not going to understand until you have kids. I'm
It's
like,
true,
whatever.
though.
Like it's just hard to explain.
And I know it's true because I have a little brother who's 16 years younger than me.
Dang.
And when I was 16, he was born. Oh, that's how math works. Duh. I can't believe I just did that. I'm an idiot. The way I talk sometimes is so
You're good,
stupid,
dude. It's
It's
fine.
so funny.
No, you're
I have a
just-
little brother who's 16 younger.
No,
He's
you're
like,
just stating.
So then when I was 16, he was born. I'm like, yeah, you fucking retard. You just said
You're
that
just
out
dating
loud.
the story.
So when I was 16, he was born, and so I didn't. He wasn't. He's way more of a kid than he is a brother.
Mhm.
He's way more like my child. Like
Yeah.
we don't have a normal brother. I think actually now that we're both adults, because he's like 22 now, 23.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 23 now. I think it's way closer to a normal brother relationship. But there was so much time there where it was like, no, he's more like my kid than
Yeah.
he is my brother. And so I got to feel some of that. But what I describe of it is like, if having a kid is like buying a wig, what I experienced with my little brother is like picking up a few loose hairs off the ground and like, oh yeah, that's hair. Like, I get it, that's hair, but it's still not a full wig. Like, you still don't see what a full head of hair looks like. But I can still completely understand what people mean when they say things like, you won't understand until you have kids. I go, yep, I believe that because I caught a glimpse of it.
Sure.
I caught an eyelash of it, and that makes sense to me because of the silly, watered down experience I had. So I
Sure.
totally buy that.
Yeah.
What was the biggest example of that for you when you actually had kids, where you were like, oh, they were fucking right the whole time?
Oh, because it's like for me, it doesn't come into
or
realization.
the first one or the biggest one?
Well, having our first was like the most paradigm shifting, I feel like, because as a guy, we don't really feel.
No, I mean, like, what was either the first or the biggest event when you had kids where you were like, oh, they were right. You don't understand until you have
It
kids.
was when I first saw my firstborn's
right
son.
away.
Like, I'm like,
Okay.
holy crap. Like, it just, everything changed in that moment. Like, just this piece of me opens up, like, to love this person I've never met before.
So it was literally
It's like,
immediately.
yeah, like,
Holy shit.
wow. Like, it's a really cool feeling. It's hard to explain unless you've experienced it, but yeah.
Dave Chappelle said it increases your capacity for love, is what. Dave
Totally.
Chappelle
That's
said.
great. Yep. And it's like mine isn't like divided between the kids. Like, my love capacity isn't divided by 4. It's just like it opens up a new place for me to love and
Right.
to care for them. And
Yeah, that's what I kind of understood about it too. It was like I thought I didn't have any more love to give. Like,
Yeah.
I have my wife and I have my dog and I have my buddies.
right.
Right. And I have my band members. But then what I'm anticipating is when I have a kid, there's like a whole other compartment that opens up where it's like, okay, now this gets filled up with love
Yeah.
for and from your kids.
Yeah.
That's how I understood what he said.
Yeah. It's pretty on par. You're kind of always operating at capacity. I feel like at least what you feel like is your capacity for giving, your output giving. But yeah, Sleep Token, their first like 2 albums are full.
That's what we were
Their
talking about.
first 2 full-length albums were just so different and so artistic. And it's like, I've always kind of like dark minor music. And that's just always kind of gravitated me. And that's how I write a lot of my own solo stuff is like pretty dark. And I feel like they're a dark band. And almost in too dark of a way, where it's like they got this whole gimmick, like they're playing towards this sleep god or whatever.
So when you say dark, are you talking about the message in the lyrics? Or are you talking about like the literal minor keys and the minor notes and the bitter notes and the disharmonies? Like, what do you define as that dark?
It's kind of
Moody?
I operate off of like the feeling of it, and it just has I see just the stage is like a dark, like lots of blacks and grays and reds and dark blues and purples kind of thing.
So, okay, because that's how I think of music. I have synesthesia. So when I
Okay.
hear music, I see colors.
Yeah, and
And
so
it
then
paints a
have
picture
you done
for me.
that?
What do you mean?
That's a trip, dude. So I listened, not this song, but there was another Sleep Token song I listened to for 4 hours straight on repeat, and I did a painting. And
No way.
Zach Boyd has it.
Really?
And it's one of my personal favorite paintings I've ever done.
I didn't know you painted.
And it's a fun thing, man. Like, find a song that you're in love with and just flip it on repeat and just put anything down. Like, abstract art is a total, like, freedom expression. It doesn't have to be anything, and it just kind of comes together, and you just kind of trust that it's going to come together, and you just start doing it, and it'll just bring itself.
Have you always painted?
I don't think so.
Have you ever had a history in visual art? Like painting, drawing, sketching, any of that shit?
Yeah, I used to, like, sketch all the time as a
Okay.
kid. I'd draw hockey players. You know, I'd have, like, the cards, and then I'd just would look at a hockey card, and I drew a lot of goalies because they had more
The
intricate
coolest
stuff.
uniforms, yeah.
Yeah,
The coolest gear.
and the pads, and
Yeah.
it just was more fun to draw than a stick figure hockey
Sure.
player.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
My
I kind
wife's
of
an
fell.
incredible artist.
Yeah,
And we talk about abstract art a lot.
yeah.
And I always have to ask her, I'm like, okay, am I being a hater, or is that just lazy art? And I'll point at something, and she'll
Uh-huh.
go, it's 50-50. It's like a coin flip every time. She goes, no, that's actually pretty cool what they're doing, and you're just not seeing it because this is what they meant. And then I go, oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of get it now. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just a Neanderthal, and I'm not in that art
Sure.
intellectual space. And then
Yeah.
there's other times where she goes, no, that's dog shit.
Yeah.
That's just a shoe in the middle of a room.
Right.
You know, like,
Or-
you know what I mean? Or like same thing with like abstract paintings. And she's like, no, they literally just throw paint at a wall. And
Yeah.
like, I guess you could say what colors you choose, whatever, but no, Jerry,
Right.
you're right. It's randomness. It's
The
and
banana.
So again, it's just like, again, it's like, what is art, right? Like, what do you define as art? I told you what I define as art. Something created through inspiration or suffering. But what do you think art is?
I feel like it's just an authentic individual expression of a feeling or a moment or an encapsulation of something, like kind of a message in a bottle, but a chance to like bring a feeling to life or put it to something that's physical.
Okay.
And then sometimes, like, when I write songs, I won't even know where it comes from. It'll be like more of an abstract thing where I just kind of write down what I'm feeling. Like when I'm in the studio, and I know Jeremy does a lot of this too, Montoya, where we just kind of sing impromptu stuff, and then you piece it together after.
Are you doing just melodies and singing random words? Or do you have like a phrase that you build on?
It's
Like, how
mostly
does
like
that work?
Syllables and enunciations. Like,
Okay.
I'm very like being a drummer. Mm-hmm. But I'll try to say words and then have them make sense later.
Sure.
Like between the
When
way-
I did that, I made up random things, and I
Yeah.
would just like, it was like a stream of conscious. It almost never made sense,
Yeah.
but it was like, yeah, I know, I kind of want, because when I did it, it was mostly screaming and metal, so I knew I kind of wanted to,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, so then, and sometimes it would change to and I'm like, okay, well then I got to change how I express it, because I really wanted a broad sound instead of a muffle.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, when I was doing it, it was very rhythmic. You know, as a metal vocalist,
For sure.
it was more rhythm than it was of a melody. But that brings me to my next question. So when you write music, I asked you when you were a kid, how much did lyrics matter? For me, they matter none. Like, I don't give a fuck what you're singing about.
I mean, I'd argue with that a little bit.
No, for me personally. Like, I literally don't care what you're singing about. I literally just don't care. Because I almost can't hear lyrics.
But if it's just one word the whole time for every song you listen to, you'd probably change your mind.
Okay, maybe. I never thought about it like that. You might be right. I guess what I'm trying to say is it could be in a foreign language. And if the vocal line is fucking dope, I'm suddenly saying something in French and I don't know what
Sure.
it means.
Like that, what is that, Andrea Bocelli, that opera song, you know? It's in a different language, and
Let's get more weird with it. Let's get more literal and weird. So, A Tout le Monde by Megadeth. The entire chorus is in French. I have no idea what the fuck it means. But
Okay.
I sing it,
Yeah.
and I'm singing French. I
Yeah.
even looked up the lyrics. I even looked at how is this written? What is he? And I fake speaking French while I sing a lot. A tout le monde, a tous mes amis. I have no idea what that means, but I sing it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because it sounds cool. So as a vocalist, and this was true for me as a vocalist as well, when I listened to other vocalists, it was about the tonality and the timbre of their voice and their phrasing. It was about their choice of notes and harmonies, whether they were going for the straight, direct, or live. Sometimes they'd pick the third or the fifth, you know, or the fourth. You know, they'd get really fucking weird and try to go power chord with it.
Yeah. I'm similar.
That's what really fascinated me and still fascinates me still to this day. Like, there's entire chunks of songs that I don't know what they actually say, and I just made up a lyric.
Yeah.
Like, some of my favorite bands, there's entire chunks of Coheed and Cambria songs where suddenly I'm on my iPhone playing drums and I accidentally hit that lyric button, and then I'm looking down at my drums to see where I'm at in the song, just see how long it's left. I'm like, oh, I'm getting kind of tired. Okay, there's only a minute left, right? And I go to hit the thing, or I back up. I'm like, oh, I want to practice that fill again. I fucked that part up, and I go to back up and I accidentally hit that lyric thing. And all of a sudden, I read what he's actually singing, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's what he fucking said there,
Yeah.
dude." I'm so stupid.
It's such a fun game to play, like with your wife. Like we just saw Green Day with the Pumpkins, and now that holiday song is popular on Fortnite, and my kids
On holiday.
Yeah,
that
but
one.
but like I never put it together that that's what he was saying. I thought he was saying all in all today.
All in all today.
Because I didn't even know what the song was called.
No
you know,
shit.
it's like
That's
all
it.
in
That's a-
all today.
That's exactly the same type of perfect analogy of the mistake I make in every song.
Yeah, because I'm listening to like more. It doesn't sound like holiday, like on holiday to me. But once you hear it, it clicks. But
Right. So that one I didn't fuck up, but that's the exact mistake I do fuck up all the time.
Sure.
Wait, what's the one? It's too late to apologize, right? It's too late. So I swear to God, I thought it said, it's too late for the job. I swear to God, that's what I thought it said. And my girlfriend at the time heard me say it out loud. I was like singing it in the background. She goes, "What did you say?" And I said, "It's too late for the job." And she gut busted laughing. She's like, "That's not what it says, you fucking
It's so
idiot."
far off too. Were you looking for a job at the time?
I don't remember, but I wasn't listening to any of the other lyrics in context either to set it up that it's too
I can
late to
actually hear that now.
apologize.
It's too late to find a job. It's too late. It's gonna be, Weird Al's all over this now. He's
man.
like, oh yes, millions.
But yeah, I've done that for years. So-
Writing a parody band, like my wife and I she mostly does, like makes up all these songs about our dog, you know, like, "You're the dog of my dreams."
Oh, sure, yeah.
And like
yeah.
just parodies, and like I feel like that would be the most fun band now, is like
Yeah.
just
I
writing
do-
fun songs about things that already
I
have
want to
melody.
create a band that is literally like a joke. Like, it's a comedy band.
Psycho Stick, were they a joke?
No, I don't know. I don't know enough about them. I haven't listened to enough of their music, and I don't listen to lyrics to know if it's supposed to be funny or not.
It
But
was like beer is good, beer is good. Yeah.
do you remember? No. Look this up. Pull this up. Fried or Fertilized is the name of the song. Fried or Fertilized. And it is a rapper, and he goes, "How you like your eggs, girl? Fried or fertilized? How you like your eggs? Fried or fertilized?"
Fertilized.
It's just super weird and funny. And then there's that other Asian dude who has the song. It's like, pineapple apple pen, apple pineapple, pineapple apple pen. Like, just hilarious, silly music. Like, I want to do that, but then here's the point: make the music really good. Like, make it good, but be hilarious like that. No, don't play that. Don't play that shit, dude. We'll get flagged for that so fucking fast, dude. We'll get flagged within 3 seconds on that. Fried or Fertilized? Froggy Fresh. That was Weird Al Yankovic. That was Weird Al Yankovic.
That's
Gangsta's
because
Paradise.
they heard me say it, and it just populated
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Like, make my money, make it, please, Jared.
No, you're right though. That is probably what happened. But I do want to do something like that. But take me back to, I want to get this question answered. When you write lyrics, what are you doing? Like, do you start with a message and then try to build? Do you start with a phrase? Is it random? Like, how? Like, take me through that as a lyricist. And do you start with lyrics first, and then fix the rhythmic phrasing
Sure.
to make those lyrics work? Do you change your lyrics to make it work to your phrasing and your EAs and all that kind of shit like we were talking about before? Take me through that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do when you're writing a song vocally?
It has to have music before anything, because I feel like I have to build the lyrics according to how the music feels. It just kind of comes naturally, and it's just mostly phrasing, like impromptu stuff, and feeling how the music flows and symbolically making the E's and Ahs all come together, and then I'll go back and write. I don't think I've ever done a song where I had lyrics written beforehand.
Do you, when you're writing the lyrics and you start to develop a message or a theory or a whatever, do you push it in a direction, or do you just let it flow and then whatever? Like, do you even know what some of your songs mean?
No.
I guess that's what I'm really asking.
No, I don't. And it's so open to interpretation too. Like, it could mean, my dad used to always ask me, "What's that song about? Is that song about me, Aaron? Is that song, I don't know, Dad. It's whatever you want it to be about." That's what I used to tell people, because I don't want to like skew their love with the song about what it is for me, because that doesn't marry well. And even if it's what they want it to be about, it's not going to be the same as what they perceive it as. So I don't like to like typically tell people what the song is about to me, because it's personal to me, and it's not going to matter to the person.
Now, is that something you adopted that you learned from somebody else, or is that always how you thought about it?
I think I might have heard it from someone. Maybe it was like Maynard or something, and I'm like, that makes sense. I like that. And I have told people what I feel like certain songs are about in a broad sense, but
Because I heard that from Korn.
oh yeah, dude.
They said that's why they didn't put liner notes and lyrics in their booklets, is because they didn't want people to know.
It's coming back to me.
Do you think that's where you got it from too?
One of the coolest band DVDs I had was this Korn one, where you could click on like certain parts of the DVD and it would bring you into this whole other chapter. You know what I'm talking about?
I
It was a
remember that.
yellow.
I didn't have it, but I remember.
It was a yellow and black disc, and it was like creepy, like sewer Ninja Turtle type
See
stuff.
if you can pull this up, Cleats.
There's no way you could find that.
It's a Korn DVD.
But it had like all these hidden features where it was unlike any other band DVD. But one of them was like it would pull it. I couldn't even remember how to get there from.
Even if you could just find an image of it.
So Jonathan Davis, when he's in the producer with, or is it Fields? John Fields?
Well, Fieldy was the.
No, not Fieldy. The producer. I think it was John Fields.
Ross Robinson did some shit with them.
But anyway, he's in this. Yep, there it is.
That's it, huh?
So he's in this.
Deuce.
He's in the recording booth, and the producer comes in. He's like, "I want you to go back and relive that moment that, he had some messed up stuff happen to him when he was a kid." And he's like, "I want you to relive that and like go back and actually like play the video in your mind and bring that to the microphone." And Jonathan was able to do that in a way that I feel like was super authentic and tangible and fresh. And I think that producer like helped get that out of him. And sometimes lyrics can mean nothing, or they come from somewhere and you don't realize what it's about for 10 years. But I heard that the singer from John Foreman from Switchfoot, I think, said a song is like a lifeboat. It just sits out there and it waits for someone to find it, and it saves them.
I've described it similar. So people have asked me, like, where's a song come from, right? And I've described it 1,000 ways, but I think the best music I've ever written is, the way I describe it is, I found a boat, and it's on a river. And the way that song is written is me literally just not crashing the boat as it goes down the river. Like it quite literally writes itself in a very short period of time. And my job is to just kind of like figure out the safest way down this river without dying, without ruining everything. And then I told that to my buddy, and he goes, that's what a lot of people describe as actual creative genius. Like those are those moments of creative genius, is when you find the boat and you just guide it down the river. That's what actual creative genius is, which is super interesting because everybody from Tesla to your favorite musicians will talk about, you know, where'd the most iconic riff come from? Where'd your best invention come from? And they're like, I don't know. It came from somewhere else because it came to me almost completed.
You'd like Rick Rubin's book then, if that's...
Yeah, I should probably read that book, dude, because I'm fascinated by every interview I've ever caught him in.
You listen to what is his Telegramian, his podcast?
I know, but I should.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he had a podcast.
Yeah, Telegramian? I forget what it's called. It's some weird word. Tetragrammaton.
Look it up, boys. Look it up, boys. We're struggling for it. What's the name of Rick Rubin's podcast? Jesus Christ, pay attention, guys. They're over there having separate conversations.
I'm not.
We got to get you headphones back there. Or a second monitor feed would work too, if you just had a tiny speaker over there. Because I want to get a monitor for eventually when we set up the green room and we have guests kicking there. Like if you guys bring friends and shit, they can sit over there and they can still hear it. When we go to the bathroom, you can still hear if we're talking shit about you while you're taking a dump.
Put a microphone by the toilet.
No, not a microphone, a speaker.
I want to hear how his stream is.
No, not a microphone in the toilet, you pervs. A speaker in the toilet, so you can hear us talking shit about you while you shit.
I didn't say a camera. I said a microphone.
Oh, God, you guys are gross.
It's like
Tetragrammaton?
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't even know.
Tetragrammaton.
It's great.
I bet you that's a word that means something, too.
It does.
Like, it's definitely not made up. It sounds completely made up, but it's not.
So what are you into for podcasts, like besides the mainstream ones?
Besides the mainstream ones, God, that's a great question. Hold on. Let me think about that for a second. Because I really don't like most podcasts because they become all formulated and riddled with ads. So it kind of depends on what time of the year it is or what year it is. So like right now I listen to a lot of politics and a lot of sports.
Why politics?
Well, because it's election season, right? It's just that simple. It's election season, so I listen to politics. It's football season, so I listen to football podcasts, fantasy football podcasts, ESPN, fucking all that kind of shit, right? Vikings post game, like I'm very kind of like you said, go with the flow. Like this is where we're at. This is what I'm listening to. So there's a period of time where I was listening over the last like 2 years where I was listening to a lot of war podcasts, both current and history, because of the shit going on in Israel and in Ukraine. And just again, like catching up on World War II, like how did we get here? That kind of stuff. Because a lot of people don't realize the reason we're having these skirmishes right now are direct, and I mean direct, chain of custody from World War II. Like everything we're experiencing right now is an absolute direct result of how World War II ended. It's still to this day communism versus capitalism. Like the Cold War, all of that. It's all the same thing, from Korea to Vietnam to Ukraine to Israel, Iran, Afghanistan. It's us versus the Soviets. It's capitalism versus communism. Again, everything's cyclical, bro. So it just depends on, like, I can't give you a name of a podcast because honestly, a lot like churches.
So you're like topics. You like just pick topics.
Yeah, and a lot like churches, my problem is like as soon as I hear somebody on some bullshit, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like you're no longer worth listening to. Sorry. And that's why I stopped going to Eagle Brook. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember what they said, but I was like, nope, that's some bullshit. I'm out. And that's all it takes. All I need is for you to put your human bullshit, your political bullshit, your
but isn't
bias
that
spin and stop telling me the truth, and then immediately, if you're in a leadership position, I'm like, nope, I'm out.
so? It's like the burger thing.
Yeah. Yep. I'm like, there's something wrong here. I'm out.
But I mean,
and that's a survival instinct. I'm not saying I'm right, you guys. I'm not saying any of you should listen to me.
But
I'm
that's
saying
just
this is how I
missing.
survive, and this is why I've had great success in avoiding catastrophe in my life. Is because I go, this person's not worth following.
But isn't that everybody?
Probably. Until you follow somebody into war and you lose a fucking leg on their bullshit. You know what I mean?
So what is it about like following the wars that intrigues you, or following politics? Like why do you do it?
I think it's because I'm getting older and it actually affects me very directly now. Because I see people around me not being aware and not being educated and voting for ideologies that sound good when you're being pandered to, but they have devastating end game consequences, like communism. Like a lot of these, like, oh no, fucking. I mean, I can't even think of a single thing off the top of my head because I'm finally catching a little bit of a buzz here. I've been having so much fun with it. My adrenaline's been pumping. I drank like 4 beers and I'm just now feeling a little tiny bit of a buzz. But, like redistribution of wealth. Like rich people have too much. Well, yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course rich people have too much. Of course they do. But to take what they have, in order to do that, and to forcefully take it, and then trust anybody to give it away to everybody else equally, will never happen. And the act of which will be more evil than the evil already happening. And the only way you can't see that, in my eyes, is if you're driven by pure idealism and you are not even remotely connected to reality, which means you have to come from a point of extreme privilege. Here's a literal example. I live in the hood. It's not much of the hood anymore, but it was, especially during the fucking riots. It was really bad during the riots. And I can't tell you how many people told me, you don't need guns. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And they go, no, because when something happens, you call the police. And I'm like, well, what about when the police take 45 minutes to get here? And they go, that's not how it works. And I go, no, that's literally how it works in my neighborhood. Like, you live in a neighborhood where you have a 3-minute response time on cops. You have the privilege of having somebody else that you emphatically trust to literally save your entire family's life. I live in a place and in a time where I can't trust anybody to take care of me or my family or my wife or my friends or anybody. I'm in a position where I am the man. This is my weird little castle.
Sure.
And if anybody encroaches on my land, there's nobody coming to help me. Not even friends and allies, because a lot of people are afraid to come down here and do anything.
Sure.
Because it's the hood, right? And they're just speechless. Still. And it's the same thing that I get from far-right religious people that want to control people with their religious beliefs. But it's just not right. I'm like, okay, that's not logic. That's not realistically how we do things. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And the older I get, the more I realize that the vast majority of people base their vote, and our government controls things based on that emotional response, which is idealism. And that's not good for me in most situations now. Maybe it was good for me 20 years ago when I was a young kid and I didn't pay a lot in taxes and I didn't own a house and I didn't have a family that I'm trying to have and worry about, And I was a renter and I thought rich people had too much. But now that I got a little tiny bit of something and I realize how hard it is to keep it, and everybody's trying to tell me that I have too much, now suddenly I'm going, you guys, I'm not fucking rich. I'm barely making it just like y'all. I just have one extra zero. You're worried about $100. I'm worried about $1,000. We're not that different. We're just barely apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're $100 from missing your rent. my boy over here's $1,000 away from missing a mortgage.
Yeah.
The difference is you lose an apartment, you move on. The difference is he loses his fucking house, gets foreclosed on, and his life is ruined for the next fucking 10 years. There's a huge difference. So that's what fascinates me, because wars impact economies. Economies impact governments. Governments impact my day-to-day life. So that's kind of why I end up not chasing topics, but you're kind of right. Like, yeah, I kind of go with the flow. Like, here's where we're at right now. Here's what I need to be informed on. And so there'll be times I'll be on the fucking, Jocko Willnick podcast, or I'll be on the Lex Friedman podcast, or I'll be on the Alex Huberman podcast. Huberman, right? And it's basically like, it's whatever is gonna, two things: tickle my fancy, give me that dopamine hit in my brain, make me feel like I'm learning something and bettering my life. But number two, directly informing me on how to not hurt my own life at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's learning how to get better sleep, or take sleep more seriously, or fucking maybe I shouldn't be supporting this war in Ukraine or maybe I should be, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the long-winded answer to your question, if we're trying to fill time on a podcast. What about you? What do you listen to other than like the mainstream Rogan and that kind of shit?
Well,
You've hinted at a couple times that you've listened to this podcast, which I find very flattering.
The Rick Rubin one.
I got to check that out. What time is it, boys?
It's 9:30.
9:30? Well, we should wrap this up.
I just got a phone call, and I'm like, I wonder who's calling me, and it's probably my wife, because
Dude,
I was
we got to do this
9:30.
again, bro. We haven't even scratched the surface. My ADD kicked in.
What time did we start this at?
6:30, dude.
That was 3 hours.
Yeah, we just crushed 3 hours.
Jeez.
And we didn't even scratch
These guys are so bored over here.
Well, there's a lot going on
Listening
over
to
there.
a conversation.
One of them's being trained in, and the other one's trying to do his job. And honestly, this has been a great conversation, dude. I've had a great time with you. We didn't even scratch the surface. Please come back again. Please. Please. He's just smiling. He's like, nah, I'm good, dude. We did this once. We're good.
I won't speak
No, I'd love to have you back
without,
again, dude.
processing.
No, I'd love to have you back again, because there's so much more about like how you got into music. There's so much more I want to get into you with, dude. And
It depends if Rick Rubin comments on the podcast or not.
oh, that's gonna be a tough one, dude. I think that's a bit of a reach. We'll send some emails.
Or Weird Al. I mean, I could see Weird Al sneaking in. He's got Minnesota connections.
Does he really?
I've heard.
I've heard. Where can people follow you if they want to come check you out at church? If they want to check out your music, do you have like an online deal? Are you strong on socials?
I'm not strong on socials. That's why partially why I was hesitant to come on.
If people want to go see you at church, though, they can go to Eagle Brook.
Yeah, Eagle Brook, or I'm on YouTube. Emergent is the band name, and I'm working on, I didn't tell you this already, we can wait till next time, or we can leave with the exclamation point. I worked on a solo record that's kind of sitting in the waves right now. Wally's heard some of it, and it's with the producer, Mark Heimerman.
Okay.
There's some good stuff, but I'm still kind of waiting for the reveal of where it should go.
I love it, dude.
So
You should come back on and play some of it, especially if you can do it right before you release it, so it's not officially algorithmed by like DistroKid or whatever. You know what I mean? Because that's who flags us. That's who.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When it comes to like, oh, we got flagged on YouTube, and you appeal it, it's DistroKid or it's the distribution services that actually do it.
sure.
And then you can dispute it and be like, no, I have permission. And sometimes they're like, nope, fuck you. And then that video is just permanently demonetized. And once it's demonetized, it just drops off the algorithm. That's why we try to make those appeals and do that shit.
Interesting.
Eventually, I'm going to have to get straight up written releases.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have to file those appeals and be like, you guys, come on.
It's a lot of work.
But, yeah, let's try to time it up with that, dude. Before you release that record, bring it on. If you can play one song, you can play the whole record. Like, Boyd debuted the whole Johnny Rook record.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we went track for track all the way down.
That's cool.
It was really interesting because I'd never done a podcast like that, but we went through each song.
Whose concept is that?
It was his. He brought
Okay.
it up. He was like, hey, what if we did
Attaboy,
this?
Zach.
And I was like, dude, that's fucking dope. Let's do it. It was a huge honor because he was the first podcast. He was the first episode on this bad boy. He knows how big of a fan I am. I'm a total fanboy for Zach Boyd. I'm still waiting for the day where the stars align, where him and I can be in a project today, or in a project someday. Whether I'm
I thought
playing
you guys
drums or
were.
playing guitar. Well, we were going to do that cover band thing together, but he had the back surgery he had to get into, and
We'll just slap him in a back brace and hang. He'll be strapped in from the ceiling, so he doesn't have to put any weight on his back. And
there you go. Just two little legs
Ideas.
dangling right
Yeah.
above the stage, like he can try to move. And
like
it's
one of
just
those little
legs.
baby bouncers.
We love you, Zach. It's nothing but love, man. All right, like, subscribe. We got to get to 500 so we can get these guys paid. Help us get to 500 subs. Like, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. Follow me online if you guys want to. It's Jared Singer Live everywhere on all the socials. It's Jared Singer Live. Love you guys, and we're out of here. You can hit end.